Hi, folks. This is Jason. Hope you're okay today. It's good to be with you, everyone. I have a special guest on today's show, and she's by far one of my favorite atheists, and it's Nadia. Welcome to the show, Nadia. It's good to see you.
Hello. It's good to see you on again too, Jason.
And I thought we'd have Nadia's been wanting to have a chat for a while, and she's been very patient waiting for me to reply. So I thought it's about time we had a little chat together. So what we're going to do is we're going to chat about the Bible. I'm going to ask Nadia some questions about the Bible, and then after that, we'll let people on tell us what they think about what Nadia said. Then we'll have another Google hangout in a day or two, and I'll think over what Nadia said, and I'll give a reply to Nadia, and she'll be running the show the next Google hangout. Okay. Nadia, do you want to share a little bit, just for a few minutes, not more than 5 minutes, if you could just share a little bit about yourself, about anything that you think the audience might like to know, or that can help us to understand where you're coming from, your perspective on life and religion or anything. If you could keep it to about 5 minutes, thanks.
Absolutely. So, my background was I was raised in, say, only a nominally religious household, and religion wasn't very well pressed into me, but so it never sank in. And so I didn't undergo any deconversion experience. And but on the other hand, what was impressed on me later on in life was that substantial amount of the anti-LGBT animus in society was of religious origin. In particular, since the U.S. is Christian primarily, that Christian doctrine was what argued against me. So from there, obviously my emphasis in these iterations is not countering creationism, but I do have essentially the well, I guess you could call it a materialistic worldview that I suppose natural forces are what give rise to well, the formation, history, and circumstance of human beings and the objects we deal with and on the earth and so on. That, of course, that inequality is unjust. That, well, he writes to over one's own body and who one loves are quite paramount. That I guess, of course, that well, one can do even what others find unpleasant with one's own body. And well, I suppose when I engage, though, I typically list things as reproductive rights, sex and science education, the rights to death with dignity, LGBT rights, and then, of course, dealing with the issues of the future, like climate change, fossil fuel depletion, antibiotic resistance, and, of course, Middle East peace. So these are things I think religion all adversely affect. So from there, I guess a personal note is that well, I was a computer programmer by trade and majored in mathematics and computer science, and for an undergraduate degree at university. So, all right, go ahead.
That's awesome. That is really awesome. Thanks, Nadia. That's great. I'm just going to read a few Bible verses, and I just wondered if you could give me your response to this question. What do you think of the claims of the Bible? So I'll just read a few Bible verses, because like I could claim that I'm a policeman, or I could claim that I'm a nurse, um, or somebody could say that I'm a nurse, but I've never claimed it. So I just want to bring it down to, to see if the Bible does claim something, that it is the Word of God, and then to ask the question, what do you think of the claim that the Bible is the Word of God? So here's Hebrews chapter 4, verse 12. It says, the Word of God is quick, powerful, and sharper than any two-edged sword, piercing even the dividing asunder of soul and spirit, and of the joints and marrow, and is a discerner of the thoughts and intents of the heart. And then 2 Timothy chapter 3, verse 16 to 17, it says, all scripture is given by inspiration of God, and is profitable for doctrine, for reproof, for correction, for instruction in righteousness. Jeremiah 23:29, is not my word like as a fire, said the Lord, and like a hammer that breaketh the rock in pieces? I'll read one or two more, and then I'll see what you think. Psalm 119:105 says, thy word is a lamp unto my feet, and a light unto my path. And 1 John, I'll just read one more. Romans 10:17, we'll leave it at one or two more verses. It says, Romans 10:17, so then faith cometh by hearing, and the hearing by the word of God. And John 17:17 says, sanctify through thy truth, thy word is truth. So, do you think the Bible claims to be the word of God, and what do you think of that claim if it is?
I think at least some sections of it claim to be so, and I don't think the claim is credible. A deity is not going to. Well, there are multiple problems, but
Okay.
to the extent you have a sort of omniscient, omnipotent, timeless, immaterial, disembodied mind, as the modern conception of the deity, that has numerous evidential problems, and as well as logical. To the extent you have sort of ancient conception of a Zeus-like being, those are readily falsifiable. So there, and other things in between have their own problems too. So the kinds of claims that go around have such diversity that they're difficult to tackle all at once. But regardless, tracing the authorship to a deity is not going to happen. Go ahead.
Okay, thanks, Nadia. Just for those who are listening in, I'm not going to be replying to Nadia. I'm going to ask a question. She's going to reply, and we'll let people on at the end of the show. I'll just put my mic on because I can hear background noise. I don't know if that's me or you, Nadia. But thing is, if I put my mic on, people can hear me. Um, I'll see if it gets rid of the background noise. So that's what we're going to do, folks. If you're wondering why I'm not responding to Nadia, I'll be doing it on another show, and I'll go over the show, listen, study what she says, and try and reply. I'll just put my mic on.
Hmm?
Can you hear me?
I hear you.
Okay. Okay, could you expand, Nadia, on a little bit um, on this issue of um, the Bible claims there are these claims from the Bible that it's the word of God, like Jesus says, "Thy word is truth." And you said that it's not going to happen, that you can't. Yeah, from what I'm getting from you is that it's not possible to be able to verify that those claims are true. Could you just unpack a little bit about these ideas that you have about omniscient disembodied mind, what why this is a problem for you, and also this issue of ancient concepts of deity? And could you unpack it just for a few minutes, just what you mean by these things? And I'll come back at you another day.
Hmm. Okay, so the idea of a deity actually varies quite a bit by the particular religion. I mean, Hindus, for example, consider the devas almost natural forces incarnate and that are in some way ultimately emanations of the Brahman, where the Brahman is, well, actually the Star Wars, the Force was modeled on the Hindu Brahman, but it would familiarize the concept to, or a similar concept to, I guess, people in the West and so on. In the case of, I guess, the Abrahamic deities, there's evidence that the transition happened from, say, the ancient roots of Judaism and Canaanite polytheism, and and that, of course, one had something akin to the Greco-Roman style, sort of superhuman persons and such, to a more abstract form of deity, along with the monolatry and phase that ultimately eschewed the secondary deities and so on. So, in fact, it's even posited that Yahweh was incorporated from some neighboring culture foreign to the actual native Canaanite affairs. So, with this transition to the abstract deity, you have quite a bit of, I guess what you call God of the philosophers and so on, being a sort of model for it. I mean, not one that was taken by it, but rather one that tries to approximate it, like the way one develops a mathematical model for a natural phenomenon. And it goes a bit further in that there's a notion of the Trinity, the incarnation of the deity in Jesus Christ, and so on. And those actually damage the plausibility of the whole God of the philosophers affair, but God of the philosophers already has grave issues, among them being the classical theological arguments against, disembodied minds directly, or, for instance, attempts at, I suppose, explaining human origins or origins of the universe, and so on and so forth. So, with all those kinds of bits of trouble, you can go ahead.
Okay, I think you've covered that quite well. I'd want to get on to another topic. What I'm doing, I'm making notes, and then tomorrow I'm going to chew over what you've said, and I'm going to come back at you and respond to some of these points in the next day or two. So if you're free in the next couple of days, if we could have another hangout. And so that's why. So I'm just listening to you, making notes, and give people a chance later on to ask you questions if they want to come on the show. The next question I want to ask is, I don't know if you've got a Bible, but I want to ask about faith and what you think about faith. So, if you have a Bible, I don't know if you have, but I just want to read a couple of verses, um, and
Hebrews 11:1.
it's from Romans, yeah,
Mm.
and I just want your reaction to verse 20, Romans 1:20, and it says, "But his invisible attributes," and we'll get onto this more later on as well. "For his invisible attributes, namely his eternal power, divine nature, have been clearly perceived ever since the creation of the world, in things that have been made, so they are without excuse." So the Christian concept of faith is about trusting God, um, but it's not from our perspective, it's not a blind faith. It's not. We would say that it's not blind. That there is evidence is there. So, what would be your objection to Romans 1:20? And do you think faith is blind, or that there is evidence for faith, but
Well, in some respects, faith is, by definition, um, if not contrary to evidence, and I would go with a technical definition or something. It says a degree of confidence in excess of justification. That would be faith, as far as I'm concerned.
sorry, could you say that again,
And
Nadia?
a degree of confidence in excess of justification.
Excess,
Yeah. So yeah. So you can
excess,
justify something only so well, but you
right?
are express confidence in it. It's greater than what you have justification for. Yeah. And
Okay. So it's
this could be.
confident.
Go ahead.
Can I just get that right? So it's confidence in something above the justification. You have, in other words, there isn't the justification for the confidence. Is that what you're saying?
Right.
Okay. It's just that statement excess. All right, I'm just writing this down. Okay, go on, sis.
And it's not necessarily a bad thing. In fact, you need some of it to have a kind of network of beliefs that is actually propped up by anything. You you eventually can regress to, well, things that you can't fully justify, and everyone is in that same situation. So you have to operate on faith somewhat, and having faith in, well, people, and like you know people's wives and husbands, or children, and parents. It's a critical part of our social dynamic. So
Okay. Could you just could you unpack for me, Nadia, what you think about then Romans chapter 1:20? That when it says, "For his invisible attributes, namely his eternal power and divine nature, have been clearly perceived ever since the creation of the world and things that have been made, so that they are without excuse." So, how would you respond to that then, with your definition of faith? How would you respond to that text?
well, I don't think it really raises faith so greatly. And I guess in some respects you can take it as I don't know, a vindication, or kind of imagined valedictory, where they're taking a sort of like triumphal claim that their own religious belief is, I guess, readily apparent to all, and that not only are people who don't subscribe, in some ways, I don't know, have the belief, what their religious belief is, presented, irrespective of whether it's been an actual presentation, but that they are in fact sort of like morally culpable for not converting. So you know very much a kind of in-group, out-group division mentality and so on. Kind of goes with I think well, I hate to say it, but right-wing leanings that are pretty heavily associated with religion, where you look up like Jonathan Haidt, he has the in-group, out-group loyalties and such is one of the 5 axes where the right wing has, I guess, sort of additional concerns beyond fairness and harm and so on.
Okay. I tell you what I do. I will come in a little bit, just a little bit, just so for people. I think it just keeps people's interest if there's a little bit of dialogue. So I will come in just a little bit, but my full response to you will be in the next day or two. So, but I'm not going to scrutinize you or put you under any pressure or anything like that. But I just think it'd be a little bit interesting just for me to respond a little bit.
Go ahead.
I'd just like to respond to 1 or 2 things. My understanding of faith is trust. And I do agree with you about faith that everybody has an element of faith, whoever we are, whether we're atheist or Christian. There's an element of trust that we have to have in things that we can't give evidences for. Like we can't prove reality exists. We just have to assume it. So I think it's true to say that in some way we all have some kind of faith there that's not evidence based, but I think the Christian faith is based on faith, a type of faith as well that has evidence. For example, Jesus, that we believe in a historical Jesus, and so there has to be evidence for that. It can't just be a blind faith. That's just coming back to what you were saying before. But I don't know if you wanted to come back at that, but that's just going on what you said about faith.
It's not really come back, but I can comment a little bit. I don't think that the faith religious people have is blind. I think they have their ideas about evidence and essentially the difference is they deem evidence, let's say, they deem evidence valid that we would not. So, okay, go ahead.
Yeah. And you know something, Nadia, I really like that you said that. I really appreciate that. Because to me, I respect that opinion that you said. I really do, because I find it very difficult for anybody to say of anybody's opinion that there is no evidence. Like if I said to a Muslim, there is no evidence at all for Islam, no evidence at all for Buddhism, no evidence at all for atheism. Well, that's just not true. That people could bring some kind of evidence, but it would be an evidence that I wouldn't necessarily value or agree with. So I think what you said was bang on. I felt that was excellent. I really appreciate that.
Okay.
On this issue of different gods and the history of religions, I've got quite a few books recently, so I'm studying. I'm going to get into quite a bit of study of history of religions, but I've done a little bit. I've studied some of the ancient religions and things like that, and one of the differences between the Christian in the Old Testament is this difference between how nature's viewed. The pagan religions and the ancient religions used nature in some form of manipulation and worship, whereas the creation account in that Genesis 1 and 2 is significantly different in the sense that nature is not seen as something to worship, but that God is over this nature, whereas the other religions use nature in some way as an act of worship. So, for example, the fertility gods, where God is sex is central to some of these ancient religions. So, in other words, that there is a difference there, and I've read papers where scholars try to argue that the names, the Hebrew names, have come from the Canaanite gods, and they can trace the lineage of a word to these ancient gods. But it breaks down when you compare the theology to the ancient religions and the theology of the Hebrew Hebrew Bible, especially the key is at Genesis 1 and 2.
Um, I don't think this difference in theology is so damaging to the case for Canaanite lineage. Um, I mean, there are quite a bit of geographic tracings. There's, I guess, the linguistic heritage is also readily apparent. In fact, studies of Ugaritic have been used to assist in the deciphering of biblical verses and so on. Well, actually, I should point out mostly by Judaic scholars, not actually Christian. There's also
I just
direct
Nadia,
reference to. Go ahead.
I'm just saying hello to True. Hi, True.
Hmm.
Hello, True. Sorry, Nadia. True's come on. I'm just trying to.
Yeah, I actually don't think it's quite as damaging to the case for religious adherence or quote unquote believing in the religion as some of the people who trying to push inerrancy and such try to claim. I mean, for instance, quite a number of the neo-pagan kind of beliefs, don't rely on any kind of inerrancy claim like that at all, or that their deities were, or even that their deities were not constructed. I mean, there's literally, cases where, say, Zeus, Ammon, Serapis, Harpocrates, and so on, were within historical record incorporated into pantheons as syncretic deities. Their creation was essentially documented.
What's that? Could you say that again? Say that again, Nadia, please. Please.
The names of the deities?
Yeah.
Zeus, Ammon,
Yeah.
Serapis, and Harpocrates. All right, so that kind of syncretism was relatively common. Other cases where the deity was essentially incorporated intact was pretty common. In fact, you can argue that maybe Christianity is innocence as such. A kind of Judeo-Hellenistic syncretism. Of course, once everyone's well aware of things like cult of Isis, where the Egyptian religion was imported, essentially intact into ancient Greece and Rome, and amongst others, I think the cult of Attis was Phrygian, and also likewise incorporated largely intact. So, these things are not disparaged. They are, I guess, the modern day instances of something like Wicca, or even to in their forms regarded as somewhat legitimate. And so I don't think it damages the case that the religion has a heritage, and that it's not this. I don't know, rooted in. I don't know what kind of
I think
absoluteness you might want to claim it as. Okay, go ahead.
um, I've had a look at the various creation myths, and there's similarities, but there's major differences. Um, and these theories, linguistic theories, they come with various ideological baggage. So and there are different schools of thought. Um, but I take your point, what you're saying. I we can go into that. You want to go into that next time we meet? We can go into that
Sure.
deeper, yeah. But it's really interesting. Um, I'm just trying to think of the scholar who I read the other day on. I read a paper the other day on um, various names that were reported to come from the Canaanite gods. But it's a fascinating field, and I encourage people to read up and study it. Anyhow, you're answering these questions very well. I've got another question. A
In
couple of,
Uber.
couple of, couple of questions now.
Okay, sure.
I've got five. These are five things. So you've got a lot to unpack here, Nadia. Right?
Okay.
Um, I'm just going to go through them quick and then unpack them a little bit, and just you tell me your response. The Bible touches on five areas that I wondered if you could touch upon. Um, One is cause and effect. It talks about that God made, in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. So we have a cause and effect, which the classical argument is the cosmological argument. So I just wondered if you could unpack that, why you don't believe the cosmological argument. Um,
Well,
that could the is it is did the beginning come from a material cause?
in effect, it had to. In the case of a timeless being, you essentially can't really be before something to act as a cause. Causation also typically requires some manner of spatial connection or adjacency, and furthermore, a sort of force to carry out exertion of the cause, right? And in both those cases, there isn't really a principle that can be invoked or to really act through as a cause, and there's also, of course, the lack of a spatial position to really um, have the spatial connection required to act as a cause as well. And so this is Quentin Smith's 1996 argument from the logical impossibility of divine causation, which actually is quite a bit more elaborate, but still, there's a few more problems with cosmological argument. For instance, and the claim that everything that comes into being has a cause, we don't actually see things come into being. We only see matter sort of recombined and so on. Mass energy is by and large conserved. So, in a genuine sense, we haven't seen matter come into existence,
Okay.
unless you count the conversion of, say, vacuum energy to virtual particle and antiparticle pairs and Hawking radiation, which
Okay.
still is ultimately a conversion of energy to mass instead of mass energy. Go
Okay.
ahead.
So two things there just to come back at you is number one, what is your position? And number two, do you think that it's reasonable to say that nothing from nothing the material has come? So what is your actual position on the origin of the universe, and the position that there's nothing, and then the material comes to be. Do you think, how do you unpack that?
Okay. So we have observational limits, essentially, as limitations of, say, technology or possibly even innate into the visibility of the origins of the universe. So there is some guesswork going on. We may or may not be able to confirm which of various models, we have a number of them that are plausible, actually corresponds to the universe. Now, bear in mind the distinction. We have explanations that work for the universe since it essentially expanded, but there are a whole bunch of different ones that work. The trouble is we can't tell the difference between them. So among the ones that I consider more plausible are things like loop quantum gravity, which, I guess, innately accounts for the discrete nature of space and time. There's also the notion of pocket universes, which gives a pretty straightforward idea of how this space-time region arose from, well, ones that came before it, and so on. So among the various theories, I think there are promising ones that I find compelling, and I hope maybe some point in the future there's some way to confirm or otherwise reject these theories. Okay, go ahead.
Hey, do you want to come in through? Who's trying to come in right now?
Okay.
We're just waiting for True.
Yeah.
Okay.
I strongly lean toward. Go ahead.
I appreciate what you're saying. I like the little reference that you made about such a scholar. I like that. To me, I don't think it answers you obviously know your subject, which I appreciate, but I think it doesn't really tackle the issue of how, some of the philosophical questions that you would have to grapple with. Is matter eternal? Is it not eternal? And questions like that, I think that would be interesting to explore on that. But what we're trying to do is just get where you're at, really. What about the teleological argument, the order of the universe? How do you account for there being meaning and order within the universe?
Well, I wouldn't say there actually is. I would say the evidence is against any sort of design. I think one can observe, things that were, if instances of design, would be bad design, and pretty clearly show causative factors that are, well, not the product of any kind of, I guess, conscious intervention or intelligent intervention. So, I mean, in terms of, say, human bodies, the recurrent laryngeal nerve is, of course, a big embarrassment. The vas deferens does likewise loops around the urethra. Eyes, of course, have blind spots. There's down to the windpipe and the esophagus sharing a common aperture in the mouth, so people drown all the time. You have vast amounts of space well, the universe and almost all of it is totally hostile to any form
But
of life whatsoever.
don't you find it? Doesn't it? Doesn't, for example, the complexity of the human cell or the wonder of human consciousness within the universe, doesn't that ever make you think that about that there could be a God? Hi, true.
Hi, welcome back, True.
Hopefully,
Um,
hopefully.
Hey, what's up, guys?
Hey,
there
hallelujah,
you are.
bro.
You've got audio.
How you doing, mate?
Doing great, guys.
We're just
How
having.
you guys doing?
I'm just having a gentle interview with Nadia, and it's basically a bridge building. We're just trying to get to know each other and find out where she's at. So I'm not really drill. We're not like having a really drilling debate. It's just more of a light chat conversation. So you feel free to jump in if you want to ask a question, or. But we're just trying to get to know Nadia, what her position is, and we can respond a little bit. But there'll be another Google Hangout another time where we can go really into depth and critique it in a much deeper way what she's saying. So that's the aim of the game today.
Okay.
Yeah.
All
Uh,
right.
and this is your home, True. It's your home, mate. So if you want to interrupt or you want to jump in, you're a co-host with me, bro. Yeah, I trust you 100%, man.
There are a number of respects in which things are maybe too terrible to have been. Well, whatever. I mean, for instance, sort of way ecology works means almost no animal dies peacefully in its old age. The minute they slow down, they're torn apart by predators and die screaming in agony. From rabbits and wolves down to caterpillars and ichneumon moths. That's
Yeah,
that's a rather horrific order of the universe. If something made it that way, I would question its motives.
yeah. Do you want to say anything, True, about that?
Not really at the moment. I'm just gonna sit back and hear you guys out for a little bit.
Okay. I think that from a Christian perspective, uh, the reason why all this is happening, the decay and the suffering it talks about in Romans 8, it talks about that the creation groans and it's groaning because of the fall. So that's from the Christian point of view. If there is no God, then as Dawkins said, that it's just all as there is blind, pitiless indifference. So I just think that your position is far, far more bleaker. We're saying that there's order and purpose in the universe because God created it, but it's gone she with because of the of the fall, and that's why we see these things with the animals and things like that. Um, I don't want to. The whole point of this is I want you to feel free to share your thoughts. I don't want to go tit for tat too much from our side. I just want to hear what you've got to say. So I
Well, I
think
would
it's
like.
important. Sorry, mate.
Go ahead.
Go on, True.
Yeah, I was just gonna add real quick. I think before I cut out, I heard Nadia say something about bad design. Bad
Yeah,
design would not automatically equal not design, would it?
that's true. And the trick is, of course, one can trace down an alternative explanation to, well, design happening at all as to why the designs are bad. I mean, for instance, the recurrent laryngeal nerve ends up doing its, snake-like meandering up and down the neck, essentially because there's no way to have it, skip past a few blood vessels or something like that. I forget which one it was, whether it's pulmonary, carotid, or what, but even so, there's constraints on how, the descent with modification can actually proceed. and those are a big explanation of why you have things like that, or the vas deferens looping around the urethra, or
But
you know.
I,
Go ahead.
I was reading the other day in Lennox's book again, God's Undertaker. I've mentioned the book that many times now, but he was mentioning various uh, experts in DNA. He was saying that there is such complexity within the DNA, far superior than any computer that we can create. And to me, these arguments that you're bringing up don't hold water on two fronts because of that complexity. I mean, how do you explain that? And the second thing is, I mean, these kind of arguments fall foul. I mean, it was often argued that the appendix is an example of bad design, but they found out that it does have a purpose. Junk DNA, they said, didn't have a purpose, but they found out that junk DNA actually there are things that it involved in that are not superfluous. So to me, it just seems that when we look at creation, yeah, things are out of sync, but there's also it's also that there is life on this planet. There's beauty on this planet, and it seems to be that everything is working for us to be able to have life. And
Well,
sorry, True, go on, mate.
I was just going to say that I think that it would ultimately come down to everybody's presuppositions. They could say, on the other hand, that through descent with modifications, these were the results of these screw ups and of just leftover changes. We, on the other hand, we believe that in the fall of man and that things are slowly degrading. Things have become worse since the beginning of the Garden of Eden. So I mean, if it depends on how you look at it, and that's why I brought up, bad design does not necessarily mean not designed, because you can have a car that might break down, but that doesn't mean that the car wasn't designed as well.
Thanks, bro. That's a good
Well,
point.
it wasn't a breakdown. It wasn't a breakdown. It was, yeah. Well, let's stay away from that. Maybe try to go to a higher level issue. I mean, you said there's a fall, and there's a notion that things are, I suppose, becoming sort of less functional and so on. And well, what I see is very much the opposite. Things are becoming better predators, crueler and more vicious and more longer lived, stronger and faster and so on. You have the extent you have quote unquote a fall, you have maybe that kind of evil, not a simple loss of functionality, and that really falls outside the scope of the creation claims. The crueler and more vicious and stronger and faster predator is not in line with the breakdown and clumsiness and things just dying and so on of the fall. So yeah, I think there's a bit of trouble there, and I think there's a bit of trouble with beyond that, sort of the odyssey with the natural order.
I don't. Personally, the animals. If you're saying animals are getting, I just writing to
They're
True.
evolving, yeah.
Just just writing to True there. He just let me know what's happening about his internet connection. Yeah, I don't see a problem with what you're saying there. If animals are getting worse, or if that's what you're saying, um, the Bible.
They're not just getting worse, right? They're
Well,
getting stronger and faster and
well,
smarter.
if that's what you think, I don't see that as any contradiction to the fall, personally. If you're saying that, if you're trying to refer that to evolution, then we can discuss that. But I don't see the specific thing that you're saying there, unless you want to attach it to something else. I don't see that as a problem. I'd like to ask another question.
Sure.
Um, about religion. Um, there are many religious experiences. So you have Buddhists that claim religious experience, and Muslims and Jews, and all these different religions. Now, the Christian perspective would be that this is a sign that there is a God, because it's within human nature to have these experiences, and so that they have this hunger for a religious experience of the divine. And if they have that need, then surely that need is to be met. We're hungry and we need food. We have sexual desires and we need sex, and we have these hunger for religious experience. But how would you respond to religious experience, these variety of religious experience? Do you think they're a pointer to the possibility of the existence of God, or do you think it cancels out the existence of God?
Well, I think there is something called the argument from contrariety, which is essentially that these various religions contradict, right? So the experiences and otherwise just beliefs and so on in them end up invalidating each other because there's no way to actually really gain a preference for one, apart from, I guess, sort of personal biases. And it's a bit worthwhile for, I guess, a number of causes where you think, essentially where it's like intrusions into the public sphere or impositions in the public sphere are trying to be countered. But for instance, creationism. What part of the trouble with that is that different religions believe a different thing with respect to creation, and you're going to tell it to a Muslim or a Hindu.
So
they may have a different creation story for you.
So when you critique Christianity, would you say that you believe in truth in terms of true truth? In other words, would you say that when you say you make these arguments, we've looked at faith, we've looked at a variety of issues, and you've been very clear about what you think, and I'm just gonna, as Christopher Mouty says, bust your chops a little bit.
Sure.
And I'm just going to ask a tough question, and that question is, in terms of truth, do you believe that truth is relative? What is the concept of truth to you? And is that contradictory to what you've been saying? In other words, if you claim truth is relative, then are you making like absolute claims? or if you believe truth is absolute, yet you speak in a relative way. In other words, can you analyze yourself? What is your theory of truth? And in what you've said, are you really consistent with your theory of truth? I'm asking you to critique.
Well, okay.
I'm asking you to reflect on your theory of truth, and then I'm asking you to critique yourself to tell me whether you're consistent with it or not.
Yeah. Well, I am certainly not a foundationalist. Although I appeal to foundationalism as kind of an instrument for at least maybe notions of epistemic regress. I guess I would say I'm a realist. There's some kind of underlying actual reality and truth and so on. The say Duhem Quine thesis I think is pretty compelling as far as you know, I guess it's sort of theory of knowledge that I guess incorporates more elements of the various theories at once. I think the revelatory knowledge I don't think has great validity.
But would you say that there is objective truth? What is objective
Yeah.
truth? What is relative truth? Would you say that atheism is true and Christianity is false, and that you could actually be clear about that, or would you say that you can believe in atheism, you can believe in Christianity, you can believe in anything, that you don't have to differentiate, that they're all the same? Or would you say no, atheism is definitely correct and Christianity is wrong?
Well, there's trouble there. Christianity spans so much that it's difficult to narrow it out. There's even something called Christian atheism.
But would you say then, what I'm trying to get at is, would you say that is truth relative or is it
No.
objective? It's not.
Yeah, it's subjective. Yeah.
It's subjective.
No, it's objective.
It's objective. And what do you mean by objective truth?
Well, it has no particular dependence on the observer.
Okay. And do you believe that your position accounts for that? That your belief system, whatever that is, do you believe that is a good foundation for you to make the statement that there is objective truth?
I would say it's in some ways it doesn't actually establish that there's an objective truth. That is a sort of article of faith in itself. The remainder of it is grounded on the premise of objective truth, or otherwise what people would normally call realism. And that sits as a properly basic belief.
Okay, so how do you get objective truth from a relative position? How do you get objective truth from one individual person who says there is objective truth? How do you get objective truth from one person saying there is objective truth? How does that become objective?
Well, relatively easily, the observations and so on, while relational, are not the truth itself. From the observations,
Observation.
one can make inferences.
Okay.
So, for instance, go ahead.
Sorry. Go on, Nadia. I'm listening.
No, I mean, for instance, optical illusions or psychoacoustics or other things that can quote unquote fool you, but a lot of times you can tell that it's really just a bunch of lines on a sheet of paper that it may look like a cube, or that you're in an elliptical shaped room and there's no one where the sound is coming from, or where it sounds like the sound is coming from. There's a little acoustic effect there, and so on. Once you can do that much, you can actually start getting at what's really happening.
Okay. I'm going to leave that question there. I'm going to come back at you on another Google Hangout on these questions of truth and things like that. Yeah.
Sure.
Can I ask a few? I'll ask a few more questions. We'll go on for about another 15, 20 minutes, Nadia, and then I might send a link out. I might not, depending on the time. And then you can ask me a few questions if you want to ask them. And then we'll finish. So it's just a friendly chat today. On the issue of gay and lesbian rights and things, and the Bible.
Transgender too.
Pardon?
Transgender too.
And transgender, yeah. On these issues, yeah. Could you explain to me a couple of questions, really? On number one, what is the defining issue for you? So if you could note these questions. What is the defining issue for you concerning transgender, lesbianism, and gay rights? Yeah. How do you justify what you're saying in terms of how do you say that your position, of whatever it is a valid position? So, what is the issue? Why is it valid? And how does the Bible respond to what you're saying?
Well, okay. Working backward a little bit, the Bible isn't going to respond. It's written at least 2,000 years ago. Parts of it 2,500 or more. Next is that, well, number one, sort of, I guess, human imperative to reduce suffering and harm amongst fellow human beings is generally the driving motive here. We have from that the relatively ready analysis of mass unemployment and homelessness amongst the LGBT people as deriving directly from societal stigma that in turn comes from religion, right? And a particular religion is Christianity. Actually, Judaism is nowhere near as extreme, despite having, I guess, putative adherence to Levitical laws demanding more extreme action. So, essentially, if I were to try to engage in sort of justification, there's, number one, the innateness, it's basically burned into the brain in utero. Number two, informed consent and bodily sovereignty is the sorts of moral standards and so on that would, really dictate you have to grant the freedom to do these things, even if, or regardless. There's pretty much covers the bases, I think. Go ahead.
Okay. The issue I have is that I just think that the philosophical issues like there is or distinction. Are you aware of that?
Hmm.
And philosophical problems like that, to me, I find it very difficult to understand how you can develop some kind of morality if you believe that we've evolved. That to me, that evolution doesn't give you a system of morality, and if that's your foundation, then morality is relative. And so, if people say that they're gay and they're or lesbian or whatever, um, I just think that if their foundation is evolution, then they can argue that it's innate. They can argue all that they want, but at the end of the day, you can't get an objective kind of morality as far as I can understand. So to me, it why I just think that that's where I'm coming from. Whereas I think that from a Christian perspective, there is something transcendent that gives us some basic standards that, and it covers a whole aspect of life, not just gay rights. It covers family issues, children issues. So it's a much wider perspective on life, and that's how I see it.
Mm.
Um,
Well,
so it's kind of like um, again, Francis Schaeffer says reality bites, and what he means by that is if we look at reality, the way things are in reality, in terms of we see that there are children, we see that there are male and female, we see all these different aspects to reality, society, individuals, loneliness, uh, all different aspects, and your position has to. It's like a hand, and you put the glove on, and if you've got four fingers and a thumb, and you and the glove is four fingers and a thumb, and you put it on your hand, it fits. So it's like your worldview's got to fit reality. So just talking about gay and lesbian rights doesn't fit the full reality because there's other aspects to reality, such as children, and and how does your worldview fit there? Whereas Christianity, it talks about how to bring up children, it talks about marriage, it talks about society, it talks about a whole breadth of things. And so to me, it fits reality like a glove, makes more sense. Whereas I think the gay issue is just it is just it's just a particular group of people who feel existentially that this is important for them, but it doesn't answer all the bigger questions of life, all the bigger aspects of reality. It's kind of just like a privatized existentialism to me. That's how I see it.
the scope is supposed to be limited.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. I'm saying that my critique of that is that when we're talking about truth, when we're talking about what is truth and what is a belief, what beliefs are rational, it has to fit reality and it has to explain the totality of reality. If if it can't explain the big questions and face the big issues, then it's not even on the table. So gay rights is just a privatized issue, um, and so it's not in the same league as Christianity, where it's dealing with a whole spectrum of issues, not just gay rights.
Yeah.
It's dealing with a whole variety of issues. So they're not
Yeah.
even on the same level.
They're not supposed to be on the same level. They're different categories of belief. I mean, there's some more, I don't know, holistic or, whole world encompassing nature to Christianity where, something that's deliberately narrow, like LGBT rights, or not, and they're not supposed to be.
Yeah, but I just want to come back about this is that, like I said, I could have, for example, I could say that I was born to love tomatoes, and I have a right to have tomatoes in every meal. I have a right that when I go to school, we must be taught the importance and centrality of tomatoes. But that's my private feeling, my private belief about tomatoes. It's not it's not a basis to build a society. It's not a basis to build a culture. It's not a basis for truth. Whereas Christianity, it don't only talk about tomatoes. It talks about coconuts. It talks about fruit and veg. It talks about human beings. It talks about animals. It talks about physics. It talks about philosophy. It talks about a whole variety of things. And that is a worldview that you can take and you can apply to all aspects of life. And so there's a big difference there. And the problem is that with gay rights, it's just a privatized belief that, as far as I'm concerned, where everybody else has to take note of that belief and be taught that belief and accept that belief. But at the end of the day, it's just a private belief. Just like I might say I've been born to like tomatoes. I wouldn't expect you. I wouldn't expect because I've been born to like tomatoes for that to be central in the education system, central in politics. It's just my private opinion.
Well, it's not going to be central in education. No one's ever going to make it so.
Well, it is
We're going to
becoming.
try.
It will become. It will become central in America and
That's,
the UK. It's being
that's
pushed.
section 28 or whatever.
Um, so anyhow, that's just my opinion. But I appreciate that about what you're saying. The other question is, if we could go to, I'm going to put you on the spot now. I don't know if you've got a Bible, but if you could go to 1 Corinthians 15. I just want to read these words. It says, 1 Corinthians 15, verse 1, it says, Now I would remind you, brothers, of the gospel I preached to you, which you received, in which you stand, and by which you are being saved, if you hold fast to the word I preached to you, unless you believe in vain. For I delivered to you as of first importance what I also received, that Christ died for our sins, in accordance with the Scriptures, that he was buried, and that he was raised on the third day, in accordance with the Scriptures, and that he appeared to Cephas, and then to the 12. Then he appeared to more than 500 brothers at one time, most of whom are still alive, though some have fallen asleep. So I just wanted to ask you a question of, what do you think of the resurrection of Christ? What is your strongest argument that he did not rise from the dead?
Okay, well, first off, he's not a well-attested figure. Alexander, Julius Caesar, so on. They're well-attested figures. You had quite a number of people directly interacting with them, writing about them, and so on. They even wrote things themselves that are still extant or whatever. You don't have that kind of issue with this Christ figure, number one. And so it's kind of an open question as to whether it's there. Although generally you kind of give things a bit of the benefit of the doubt, given that the evidence from 2,000 years ago is going to be scanty. Now, once you get to fantastical claims, then you start getting into deeper trouble because people notice, exceptional things happening. Just even people who are, great artists or, fast runners and things like that, got written about and noticed and so on. And well, the number of people who, eyewitnessed and wrote about this Jesus figure who supposedly carried out, fantastical things of, healing the sick and raising the dead and rising from the dead himself and walking on water. The eyewitnesses are kind of not there.
Okay, I'm gonna.
And so on. Go ahead.
Okay, because we're coming up to the near the end. I'm gonna drill you a little bit now, Nadia, on this. First of all, could you just say again what you mean by Alexander, the
Yeah, Alexander the
Alexander?
Great. Yeah.
Yeah. What? Could you just make it clear again for me what you mean? Why you mentioned Alexander?
Oh, as I remember, several of his generals who directly interacted with him wrote about him, as well as a court historian he kind of kept around and so on. In addition to having his, very appearance documented in statues, and also leaving, cities bearing his name, scattered across much of the world and so on. So, yeah, Alexander is well attested to.
Okay.
Alexander the Great, that is.
Okay. Couple of things. Have you ever heard of a historian called Polybius?
Polybius?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, if you read his work, he talks about it's 200 BC, and he talks about the importance of being a historian, that we have to have eyewitness material. And so he was very big on that and felt that you couldn't be a decent historian when you're writing about events unless you could get if it was possible, unless you could get eyewitness material. Now he was a historian of 200 BC. By the time you get to the first century, he was a model for historians, ancient historians.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you look at Luke chapter 1, the first few verses there, similar Greek words that Luke uses about him seeking out eyewitness material are the same kind of Greek words that Polybius uses. So, recent scholarship in the last 6 or 7 years, there's a lot of scholars now that are seeing the Gospels as the genre of historical biography, where there is seen by some scholars, not all, as having eyewitness material. That debate is an ongoing debate. It's not been resolved because of this new scholarship. It's not been resolved. It's not a model that's been defeated in academic discussion. It's still an ongoing debate within academia whether this is the case or not. But it's based on solid research. You probably heard me mention him quite a lot, which is Jesus and the Eyewitnesses by Richard Bauckham.
Yeah, Barker, yeah.
So, and the other thing as well is that, I'm asking specifically about the resurrection, and there is, very clear evidence, historical evidence, on the four main facts, historical facts on that. And that is, it's well attested that Jesus died. Dominic Crossan, who's a skeptical scholar, said that Jesus dying on the cross is one of the most well attested facts in ancient history. And the reason is because you have Tacitus, you have Josephus, you have Paul, and the Gospels. And so there are these different lines of evidence that show that he died on a cross. We have the empty tomb. We have the burial of Jesus in Joseph of Arimathea's tomb, and the empty tomb, which is based on the fact that the Gospels wouldn't mention that because Joseph of Arimathea was part of the Sanhedrin. So the Gospels would not have put that in unless it was the case. That's what most scholars think. And then you have the fact of the women being mentioned in the account that they saw Jesus, which in that time, women's testimony in that area was not seen as valid or important. So that is authenticated as historical. And then most scholars would agree that the early church, right at the beginning, believed that they'd seen a resurrected Christ. Scholars don't necessarily believe there was a resurrected Christ, but most scholars would agree that they saw that they believed they saw a resurrected Christ, and that's because if you study Judaism, there were various views about the resurrection. One of them is that it was only at the end of time when the Messiah, well, when the resurrection would come. So the fact that Christians were preaching a resurrection and they're from a Jewish background, it is something unique that doesn't seem to have been invented or doesn't seem to have come from anywhere else. So it seems authentic. So the basic facts are there, and then the question is whose theory explains those facts, and um, it's the Christian position that there's that it was the resurrection, supernatural resurrection, explains all those facts. If you take any other theory, whether it's the swoon theory or whatever, if we take the best explanation for those facts, the other theories don't take into consideration all the other facts, whereas the resurrection account is able to explain all those facts and seems to have a more powerful explanatory part. So I don't know what you think about that. If you wanted to come back.
Yeah, I actually find Carrier's and Price's explanations more compelling than the, I guess, claims that the supernatural claims are valid. I find quite adequate precedent on, I guess, what are now extra-canonical Judaic writings, such as the Ascension of Isaiah, which is almost line for line I guess, a transformed version of the Descent of Inanna. And frankly, the euhemerization process is extremely plausible given the literary characteristics of the Gospels. They don't appear to be historical accounts. They appear to be very much literature. And they have that whole chiastic structure, diptychic structure, and so on and so forth that really make them look like far more works of, if not poetry, then literature than any kind of historical account.
Well,
they're not consistent with themselves.
If you read
Mark for the self-resurrection, you have almost derivation of Matthew from Mark and Luke from Matthew, and not so clear a derivation of John, and so on. So I really don't find them to be that good of historical accounts. When it comes to the letters of Paul, on the other hand, the trouble is that the content doesn't actually give what you need for the historical claims. Paul actually very specifically avoids making direct references to, I guess, Jesus doing, well, much of anything, apart from, Scripture having said things about Jesus and learning things from Scripture about Jesus. The Acts of the Apostles, again, essentially a continuation of Luke, and apparently by the same author. So.
Okay. Well, if you read the Midrash, if you read all the various Gnostic Gospels, you read the Ascension of Isaiah, which incidentally is badly quoted by Richard Carrier. If you read the Midrash, which Price often quotes, you read any of the ancient literature, and there's nothing compared to the Gospels. They are entirely a category of their own. They are nothing like Midrash. Secondly, you'll find when Dr. Price is in his debate, when he mentions various things, he very rarely actually gives a detailed quote. Which is surprising, just of interest. The third thing is Dr. Price, Richard Carrier uses the Bayes theorem for critiquing the resurrection. 90.9% historians don't use the Bayes theorem in historical Jesus studies. The reason is it's not objective, it's subjective, because it depends on the various evidences that you put into the computation. So his
Prior
method,
probabilities, yeah.
yeah. So his method is flawed. And Dr. Price, well, there's two things about his methodology. Well, three things. Firstly, when you actually study ancient religions, you look at the sources, you look at the key sources that you have to go to, like Plutarch, essay on ancient religions, things like that. There's nothing that Dr. Price is saying about the dying and rising gods or similarities to Jesus in that literature. The next thing is Dr. Wells, who's an expert in German, who was the leading person in this area of study of Mithraism and dying and rising gods. Has changed his opinion that there is some historical data about Jesus, and Dr. Price and people like that would have got their ideas from him. And also, he's not an expert in historical Jesus studies. Dr. Wells is just an expert in German. The issue about detailing historical material, about Paul, in 1 Corinthians 15, it says of first importance. That Greek word of first importance comes from rabbinic tradition, and scholars will tell you that it comes from an early source from about 5 years after Jesus' death and resurrection. So it's amazing historical data to have if you're a historian about Jesus. The work by James Dunn on on oral tradition. There are two types of oral tradition in that period, and that is historical oral tradition and oral tradition passed on by mouth. And that historical oral tradition you can see in 1 Corinthians 15. So basically, if you tackle this in a detailed scholarly way, you can answer Dr. Carrier and Richard Price quite easily, really. The other thing about Dr. Price is if you go on his website and you look at the references to his scholarship, he's using a large number of his works that he uses. He goes back to 19th century scholars, and he has a big thing about these 19th century scholars. But what he doesn't take into account very often is new information that we have, new research that we have in archaeology and things like that. So I think that's a problem with his method, and that's where you're getting your ideas from.
Mm,
And
not
the other
all.
thing, the other thing as well is what he'll do is he'll pit off like he'll try and show that the text in the Gospels contradict themselves. But one thing that's interesting when he's doing that, um, he's picking and choosing. He very often he say, "Oh, we don't know what's in the Gospel there in that chapter, in that verse, and that chapter, that verse. We don't know, we don't know, we don't know." So he's kind of like agnostic. And then next thing you know, he'll say, "But we do know what's in this verse. We do know what's in that verse." And what happens is it's very convenient for him to get rid of any data that disagrees with his theory by his literary uh, editing, and then chooses the bits that he wants for his argument. So it's an arbitrary methodology. Um, those are just some thoughts about him. But anyhow, I've enjoyed talking to you, Nadia. I hope I've given you. I hope I've given you a fair whack and allowed you to share your opinions. And I certainly value you and I certainly respect you, Nadia. And I've really appreciated that you've taken the time to come on. I'm going to give you a minute or two if you want to ask me a question. And maybe if we have another hangout next time, I can come back at you on some of the other points. I've come back at you on the resurrection a bit, but I don't know if you have one or two questions that you wanted to ask me. Just off topic, if there's been something burning in your mind that you wanted to ask.
Yeah, if you acknowledge various peripheral beliefs is not essential to your faith, and why is it you can't let go of them when they do harm?
What do you mean? What do you mean? You have to unpack that for a second there. I don't understand what you're saying.
Well, clearly the things regarded as essential by Christianity are about, I guess, the life, death, resurrection teachings of Jesus Christ, and things like anti-LGBT doctrine are not part of that. They are non-essential. And these non-essentials are doing harm to people. So why are you so tightly wedded to them?
I think
Why can't you be a liberal Christian?
it's a good question, Nadia. I think it's a very, 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 very good question. I think I'll tell you a little story. I trained in two seminaries. I went to an evangelical seminary, which was turning liberal, but it still had an evangelical foundation. And I come from a very conservative. Before I went to seminary, I was very steeped in the Princeton theologians and conservative evangelical theology. So I was well read before I got to seminary. When I got to seminary, it was evangelical. But after 4 years studying full-time theology, I really wanted to go and see what other people thought. I mean, really go to the opposite end of my spectrum. So I went to a seminary that was completely liberal, where the lecturers were lesbian, where students were gay. And so I went there, and what I found was that there was prejudice towards me as being an evangelical, that they would often talk about, or they would often imply, that those who believe a book and believe in Jesus and believe the kind of things that I believe, these people are narrow-minded and bigoted. But what I found is that even though I didn't say anything, I didn't make any issue about gay. I didn't make any issue about lesbianism. That that they were hostile towards me, and I hadn't said anything. And what that taught me is that there's no neutrality. That there isn't any neutrality. That there is truth, and so that's the first thing. And the second thing is um, that my loyalty ultimately is not to my culture. My loyalty is to Jesus Christ, and that's where I stand. My loyalty is to Him, and it doesn't matter to me what culture says. It doesn't matter to me what uh, what culture says is right or what culture says is wrong. To me, it's what matters is what Christ says, and I will try to uphold His standards, and I'll fail. I make mistakes, and I'm not good at times. I'm not, but to me, the loyalty is with Him, and I submit to Him. So if culture is coming against Him, if culture is attacking Him, or if culture is questioning Him, or if culture is bringing Him down, or if culture is undermining Him, then I stand with Jesus, and so gay rights and gay beliefs basically undermine Christ, because they're basically saying that Jesus said that not one jot or tittle will change from the law, that in the sense that the Old Testament is the word of God. So our culture will attack the Old Testament. Gay people often attack the Old Testament. Jesus taught about that, marriage is between a man and a woman. So our political systems say, well, it's all right for a man to marry, and a woman to marry. So that goes against Christ. Christ um, gave the apostles authority, and the apostles taught certain things. And our modern culture says, no, we don't agree with the apostles. But yet Christ gave the apostles authority, gave Paul authority, gave the apostles. So my default position is Christ. I don't want to judge any gay person. I don't want to be in any conflict with any gay person. My sister's a lesbian, and she's a wonderful person. She's a great girl. You'd love her, Nadia. She's a great girl, and I don't, when I meet lesbian people, I don't think they're bad people. I don't think gay people are bad people or anything like that. But whenever the challenge comes, and I have to make a choice, then I stand with Christ. And the Bible is very clear, and it has a clear standard. And every Christian has a duty to be loyal to Christ. No Christian, when you become a Christian, a Christian by definition is someone who is a disciple of Christ, and you have to follow his teaching. And the modern church, a lot of the church, you get two extremes. On one hand, you get the narrow-minded, bigoted Christians who, I wouldn't call them Christians, who will pull placards and are horrible to gay people, and I despise that. I think that's despicable. But then you get the other extreme, where Christians are liberal, and they say, well, we have to modernize. The Bible doesn't have the last word. We can have new revelation, and therefore it's okay to be gay. Well, the Bible clearly says what the standard is. It clearly says what sin is, and sexual sin is any sexual sin, whether thought or deed, that is not in with marriage, is a sin. Now, people struggle. We all struggle. I struggle. So if someone comes to me in church and says I'm gay or I'm a lesbian, then I would say to them, well, I know that you're struggling with that, but we have to move away to the model that Christ has, and we have to be a disciple of Him. And I will walk with you in your struggle, but eventually we have to look to Christ, and Christ can redeem us. He can redeem our thoughts, He can redeem us, and He can change us, and He can make us anew. And I could not say to that person, yeah, it's okay to be gay, because it's from Christ's perspective, it's not. It's But at the same time, I have my own issues and I struggle, and I would expect people to have compassion for me. So I would have compassion for any person who came into a church and said, I'm gay and I'm struggling with this. Can you help me? But if someone come in and said, I'm proud of being gay and you've got to accept it within the church, I would say, well, I'm sorry, you're not the head of the church. The government's not the head of the church. Jesus is head of the church. And as the head of the church, He will have a holy bride. He will have a pure bride. Now, He wants us to be pure and holy. Now, I understand that you say you're gay, but Paul says we are new creatures in Christ, and we can be new creatures. We can change. It's not easy. It might be painful, but we will struggle. I struggle, but we have to move forward in the redemption and the joy and the blessings that Christ has got, uh, and um, and to support each other and love each other in that way. But there's no compromise here. There can't be any compromise. The standard, I am single and I struggle sexually. I can't go to the church and say, I struggle sexually, but you've got to accept whatever I think should go. No. The church should be there to support me and help me. But at the same time, the church has to call people to repentance and faith towards Christ and to experience the new birth and change. So I'm very strong in it because my commitment is to Christ, Nadia. My issue is not with people. I'm not against you. I'm not against any gay person. I'm not against my gay sister. I'm not against any gay person. I think gay people are great. I've met many gay people, and they're great people. My issue is that I am loyal to Christ, and therefore, being loyal to Him, I have to stand for His standards. And that brings me into conflict with modern culture and gay rights, because gay rights will say, no, that's not right.
Well, there's a question of, well, how much you can really, quote unquote, hate the sin while loving the sinner, when the sin is the very core of the being. But even beyond that, trans people are in no respect directly condemned. In fact, Matthew chapter 19, verse 12, Christ even speaks highly of eunuchs. So, what's wrong with trans people, according to the Bible?
What's wrong with trans people?
What scriptural justification is there for Christian doctrine against trans people?
I think I've said before. I think it's simple and it's complex at the same time. It's simple that the Bible clearly teaches that there are men and there are women. Men are to be men and women to be women. But we're in the fall, and because we're in a fall, things are messed up and people are messed up. So it's not an easy issue. What I mean to say is, someone could be clearly a man, and they could turn around and say, well, in their mind they feel that they're a woman, yeah. But I would say, well, it talks about being transformed by the renewing of your mind. So I would encourage them to think about allowing their mind to be directed by Christ and to be renewed in Him. However, there are certain people born with a dysfunctional, I can't remember what they call them, you'll know better, but there are people that,
Gender dysphoria.
yeah, and so that's where it's very complex. So that's my response, Nadia. If I was pastoring a church and someone who transgender comes, um, I just encourage them to allow their mind to be renewed by Christ and the Word of God.
Well, if you want to see people renewed,
Pardon?
I'd recommend, if you want to see people renewed, I'd recommend looking at or searching for a transition timeline. And there you will see many transgender people's stories of renewal through transition. And
Well,
the alleviation of their gender dysphoria
we,
is a great and wonderful thing that modern technology allows. Go ahead.
it's not the same. It's not the same as Christ, Nadia. There's nothing to compare with Christ and what He can do for an individual. The joy, peace, and what He can do. There is no comparison. I'm not. I don't want to be in a competing in wills. Respect where you're coming from, and I will actually. If you give me some links, I will go and read some of the stuff, and I will, if there's any material that you want me to go and read, or anything that you want me to go and study for next time we meet, or anything that I should go and look at, I will go and look at it, and I'll give you my response to it. I'll give you an honest response, and I'll try and listen to it with an honest mind.
Absolutely. And
So if you wanted to,
Jordan Rivers.
if you send me links on Skype, I could read the stuff or look at the stuff, and then next time we meet, I could give you my honest response. So yeah, appreciate that that there are stories out there, and very interested to learn more about these people. But as a theologian or someone who studies the Bible and teaches the Bible and things like that, there's there's no issue with there's no problem. The Bible's very clear. It has a very clear mandate and standard of what is to be. But pastoral issues, dealing with individuals, every person's an individual, and you have to look at a person uh, individually. So everybody's got a different story. Everybody's got different problems. So you can't just judge everybody as same. One gay person is not the same as another gay person. One transgender person is not the same as another. Everybody's different, and people will come to you, and you've got to look at that individual person as an individual and understand where they're coming from. So you can't just judge someone off the bat and say, oh, that they're gay, or that they're transgender. You've got to understand them as a person and understand where they're coming from as an individual.
All right. I think Jordan, Tony, and Arcane are out there asking for the link.
Yeah.
Do
Do you want to send Arcane? Who else is there?
Jordan Rivers.
Do you know Jordan Rivers?
Yeah. She just had a debate with Eric Hovind, or moderated a debate with Eric Hovind.
Okay.
She was
if
on Eric Hovind's side.
Yeah, you can bring them in. You can bring them in. Do you want to? Will you send them a link, or I'll send them? I can send Arcane a link.
I just sent the link. If you could send Arcane by Skype or something, that'd be good too.
Yeah. Okay. I'll send Arcane. I'll send you a link, Arcane.
Yeah. Hope is that you can see that the, well,
Well, we
I don't know, risk of sounding risk of sounding trite, sorrow and suffering and so on is greatly alleviated by gender transition. And you know,
okay.
it may not be a kind of suffering that you can personally relate to, but I would caution or whatever, it is great nonetheless. So,
Well, thanks for sharing that, Nadia. And if you could put me onto stuff to to look at, I'll have a look at it. And next time we have a hangout, I'll give you what I feel and respond to whatever you share with me. Is that okay?
absolutely, yes. I'll
And thanks for
have to,
thanks for
yeah.
challenging me on the question though as well.
I have to
It,
ask permission before I go off saying names, and
all
probably
right.
shouldn't in live hangout, but these things I actually do have kind of really committed to memory and so on, so
Okay.
it'll be a swift process.
If these guys come on, if Arcane comes on and this lady, if they do come on, we'll just have a little chat for 5 or 10 minutes, and then we'll
Okay.
go then. Yeah. So we'll just wait for these folks for Arcane and Arcane. Hope you're okay, bro. Hope you're listening, mate. Uh, I'll send a link to. I'll send a link
uh,
to.
it was good to see Chiron again. I think G-Man's floating around too. I thought I saw him popping on Skype. Um,
Send the link to G-Man. I haven't got his link, but he did come on the other day on the Good Hangout.
yeah. And here's one for Rankcam too.
Yeah, I've sent him a link as well if he wants to come. So next time we meet, then I'll go over one or two things that you've said, and I just appreciate that you've spent the time. I appreciate that you keep messaging me. Appreciate that you keep letting me know what Google Hangouts are going on, and I've really you've got me on about 3 or 4 recently. You know, I've been on a couple because of you sending me links, and I've really enjoyed it. Someone's just messaged
Yeah.
me.
Branch out. Keep talking to
Right.
people, meeting with people, getting to know people. We are out there. We won't bite unless you ask us too nicely. And
Rand Campbell's coming in 15 minutes.
I'm sure we can last that long.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
when I think a lot of things are. Yeah, he just said give me 15 minutes. Me too.
So what?
Go ahead.
Sorry. So what have you been up today? Have you been out today anywhere or?
I made a few phone calls this morning, and otherwise haven't really gone anywhere. Hi, Jordan.
Hey, where'd everybody go? Where's X and all them?
I'm not sure where they went, but we are in sort of the final phases here, and well, I'm sure we'd be glad to hear about how your event went as well.
Yeah. Hiya, Jordan. Nice to meet you, mate.
Hey, it's nice to meet you too. Yeah, it went really great. Everybody said they had a really good time. It was a good discussion, so that's good.
What was the discussion about, Jordan?
Oh my gosh, it was largely philosophical. They got all the way to into solipsism, you name it. It was a pretty good discussion. I think they were in there about an hour and a half or so, and so yeah, if you're into philosophy, you'd probably enjoy watching it, I'd say. And he's going to be doing the monthly. I don't know if it'll be through my channel or not. I've pretty much made myself available to him if he wants to continue doing it through mine. But if not, he's going to let me know if he's going to set him up from this point on through his own channel or how he wants to do it. So, but anyway, we've got some monthly dates already set out for when he'll be doing them. And I'll post them on my page here shortly. I've got them saved in my email. But he just wanted to kind of see how that first one would go before kind of committing to, because we had him set up to go to Pal Talk on those dates. And he liked the hangout a lot better because he said the conversation was able to progress much farther along, just trying to talk to a couple of people rather than trying to field, the questions of 25. So.
Oh, that's awesome. That's great. Well, you
Yeah.
just feel it, Jordan. You just feel at home. You want to say anything or take the conversation anywhere? We're just finishing. I was just bridge building with Nadia. We were just trying to get to know each other a bit more and just trying to hear where she was coming from, trying to understand where she was coming from, and then we'll probably have another hangout in a day or two, and I'll respond to some of the things she said. So that's what it was all about. But if you want to talk to Nadia about anything, or you want to ask any questions, or any thoughts that you have, or any recommendations, book recommendations, articles, anything you think that worth reading, or anything, just feel free.
I heard a lot of what you said. Not everything. I don't know why I'm getting a lot of echo from you, but no, I can't think of anything particular. I was trying to catch up with those guys to kind of get some more feedback from them all in the hangout. I thought they were in here, but I guess not. So I guess I'll try to see where they're hanging out right now and just check in with them. And I was trying to get some things done. My son's coming home tomorrow, and I'm trying to do some things here and there. I was taking a little break. I got some stuff done. I still got a little bit more I need to do before tomorrow. But it's nice meeting you, Jason. Are you a theist or an atheist?
I'm a evangelical Christian. Just to give you some idea, have you heard of Francis Schaeffer and Lloyd Jones, Dr. Martin Lloyd Jones?
Yeah. Are you in my circles? I don't know that I have you in my circles.
I don't know, Jordan, but I'll definitely put you in my circle if you're not in the circle.
No, I'm adding you now. So good. There we go.
So I'm a conservative evangelical. The Bible's the word of God. Jesus took the wrath punishment for our sin. Jesus is God, God-man. So just whatever Lloyd Jones and Francis Schaeffer, conservative evangelicals, stand up for, that's basically where I am. So I would relate to Eric Ovind and The Way of the Master, Ray Comfort, and Bible Thumping Wingnut, things like that. That's where I would be, like, theologically.
Right. Right. Yeah, I'm a fundamental Christian too. So. Yep.
Can I?
As an atheist called me. I didn't even know what a fundy was until an atheist told me I was one. I was like, okay, what is that? Yeah.
Well,
Sorry, Nadia, go on, mate.
Well, I would say we are generally concerned with a number of particular doctrinal positions that we feel can do social harms. So it does actually get pretty narrow as far as what people get worried about. I actually have pretty well nailed down, I think, what most of the concerns are, although I'd say maybe there is some undue emphasis on creationism. That is science education in broader circles. Even though I'd say I have a big laundry list of issues, the one that's really fixated on is creationism.
Well, because the title of the show is Interview with Nadia. So I don't know if you've got any question you'd like to ask Nadia Jordan, or if you heard the conversation, or if you got any question or anything to engage with Nadia in any way, being it is about her today. So
No, not right now. I've chatted with Nadia a good bit in the past, though. She and I think we probably chatted about 4 or 5 hours one night, I think.
wow.
Probably both fell asleep at the end of it all. Like all night long kind of thing talking. But anyway, I'm gonna run. I'm sure I'll catch up with you later, Nadia. I'll see you for sure. I'm sure. Jason, I hope I catch you.
All right. Take care, sister. God
All right.
bless.
We'll see you guys.
Absolutely.
God bless. Bye now.
Yep. Hopefully, we'll get more from across the pond to keep contact with you. Okay. Yeah.
Well,
Uh,
thanks for getting Jordan on, Nadia. That was great.
yeah. There are more people from your side of the pond floating around. I was in with the Panda Evangelist
Yeah, you sent
recently.
me a link to him. I was on it. You sent me a link, and I went on his show, and I really enjoyed it. He's a good guy.
Right. Right. Um, there are a few others. I think you know Richard Raspberry already, but there are actually even more. I think one of them shows up with I think it's One Way Apologetics. I don't know if you met him, but
No,
he
no.
has a pretty high-flown discussion going on in his channel. He was in with Nephilim Free the other night.
All right. I did get an invite from Neff, but I missed it. So I need to get on. I need to get onto his site because he he sent me a few invites, so I need to make sure that I get on sometime. He
Yeah,
came on the other night on my hangout, and it was great having him. Really enjoy him. Enjoy him around.
yeah. The time zones could be harsh, but even
Yeah.
so, when the stars do line up, you know, can be a good discussion. In fact, last night I think he was going into the very, his very namesake, the Nephilim, and showing, I guess, he regarded as evidence of, I guess, people who were very tall with the, 6 fingers and 6 toes. So that was, um, well, difficult for me to describe, but well, people will have, I suppose, different perspectives based on their own worldviews or something.
Mm.
I forget what the phrase is, but there's some phrase used for when you different people will look at the same evidence and come to different conclusions.
Mm. Mm. So what's with the hat? Do you always wear your hat?
No, but I thought it would just be
I like it. I like it. You look cool, mate.
yeah, it's like Marlon Brando on the waterfront of all in a union and I don't know, battling against the I don't know, high-flown industrialists and so on. Who was it? The original Richard Mellon, not Richard Mellon's case, but his namesake from the mid-19th century, said you can't mine coal without machine guns, and the coal miners were okay. Granted, they used red bandanas, not hats like this. At least not until the 40s or something, but still.
So can you play any instruments? Are you musical?
No, I have no musical talent.
What kind of music do you like?
This will probably shock you. I like I guess what you might call industrial. Maybe some people say goth industrial. They have bands like Ministry, Godflesh,
Right.
Machines of Loving Grace, Combi Christ, Velvet Acid Christ, Covenant.
What's this
I
music?
think you're setting a theme here, right?
What is this kind of music, Nadia? I've never heard of it, mate.
Industrial.
Industrial, right?
Yeah.
I'm gonna put a bit of music on so you can hear it.
Sure.
I've just got to go.
Keep it under 30 seconds because I think the copyright things have
Okay.
a very short time limit.
All right.
Yeah.
Just
Ministry even has a song called Stigmata.
Stigmata.
About like the holes in Jesus' hands and stuff. Yeah.
Is this anti-religion or is it pro-religion? What?
I don't think they really believe, but they use a lot of Christian like imagery and
Right.
things like that. Oh, hi, Rancam. Good to see you on. I was just talking about all the Christian themes in industrial music.
Hi, Ron. Hello? I just put this song on. Put it on a minute. Yeah, here it is. Can you hear it?
I heard it, yeah.
I'll play it now.
We don't need to worry about nothing. 'Cause we got the
Okay. Watch out. They got a time limit. You'll hit copyright trouble.
I'm
Okay.
17
Yeah.
7 seconds.
something. They
And I'm sure Rancam wants to get a word in too.
I like that song. Ron, how you doing, mate?
Absolutely. Come on. Say hello, Ram. We got to hear it. Well.
Ron, come on, mate. Where are you?
Come on.
Can you hear me?
Got to hear your trademark. We hear you now.
How you doing?
I'm not muted, am I?
You're not muted?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, we hear you. Yeah.
Hello?
Hello.
Hello. You're here. I'll put it in the text chat. Hang on.
Yeah, can you hear me better now?
Yeah, I can hear you better.
What's going on? What is going on, Nadia? What's going on, Jason?
Well, I'm just interviewing.
What's going on, brother? How you been, Jason?
Okay, bro. You okay? I've just been interviewing Nadia. Just come to the end. I just thought I'd send you a link. Just to see how you're doing.
Let me see how well do I do your trademark. well.
Woo! Excellent.
All right, how close am I, Ram? Tell me. I need to get tips so I can improve.
Well. Are you alright, Ron? Can you hear us, bro? I don't know what. Can you hear us?
You guys are way better than me. All right, do your interview. I'll just listen. If Nadia gets out of control, I'll come in and help you, Jason.
Okay.
We come to the end, mate. When are you free in the next few days, Ron?
I don't know if I like the word free, but yeah, I'm available.
I was just thinking if I could interview you and we could just have a chat for an hour.
Yeah, man. Well, yeah, I'm on a sabbatical. I'm finna get ready to some of these reprobates apart, bro.
Oh,
I'm gonna pick Alex Botton up by his ego and shake him around YouTube a little bit, if you don't mind.
right. I don't mind, mate.
I just don't understand. I mean, as far as I can tell, Alex Botton's a nice guy.
That's hey,
Why
Rod,
do you have trouble with him?
Rod,
Or
Rod, Rod. Can you
Alex Botton is a liar, Nadia, and you only accept him as a liar because he attacks Christians, and that allows for a lot of drama on YouTube, and you guys need the drama, right? Otherwise, there'd be no sense coming here. But Alex Botton talks about, Christians being liars, but I think he needs to go and check himself, man, because Alex Botton is one of the most vile and disgusting human beings I've ever met. And I've done a lot of time in a penitentiary, so I've met some vile people, believe me.
Hey, Rand, he's in trouble, you know. You know why he's in trouble?
Well, he's a reprobate for one, but why else?
He's got 3 coming after him. He's got you. J-Man said he's going to come after him. And True Empiricism. So after Christmas, they're going to do a series on him. Series of videos on him.
Oh yeah. I'm gonna be tearing into him and anybody like him or that likes him. I'm going after everybody. But Alex Botton is guaranteed at the very top of my list. I've got nothing nice to say about him. I am going to rip him apart, and I am going to start slapping Nadia out here if need be, if she wants to sit there and promote this idiot. Because, if Nadia's going to promote him, then I might just have to get real with Nadia, too. And I like Nadia.
I don't have to promote him to, vouch for his character and such.
That is an issue, Nadia, though. It is an issue. Like, Ryan, I was talking to John McDropout and Christopher Mouty, and I like these guys, but they will not speak out against Alex. They pat him on the back, and even these moderate atheists will pat him on the back, and to me, I just find that disgusting.
Hey, if Christopher Mouty was doing an interview with Satan, he'd be patting him on the back, too. Christopher Mouty butters everybody's toast, bro. It wouldn't matter who it was. If he could dig up Hitler and do an interview with Hitler, he'd be buttering Hitler's toast, bro.
I don't think that's fair.
Christopher Mouty, I like Christopher Mouty, don't get me wrong. Christopher Mouty is afraid of being disliked, bro. He wants everybody to like him, so he doesn't do nothing or say nothing that could upset either side of this argument.
Oh, dear, Trav, you're cutting me up, mate. I agree. I don't disagree with you, mate.
Come on, man. He's a nice guy. I'm not saying he's not a nice guy. Of course he is.
I know. I like him.
But he's afraid to be disliked, man.
He's a nice guy. And he was really nice to me recently. But then when I went on his show and I had a nice chat with him, after the show, I found out that he said I don't know if you saw that debate I had with Alex. He sent me. Christopher Marty sent me the link, and I went on the Alex Bolton show because he sent me the link. And I went on, and I knew he was going to beat me up. I knew he was going to be horrible to me, but I just thought I'm going to be nice, and it'll expose his horribleness. I was just nice. I knew I wouldn't get a chance to really debate the guy, and he was obnoxious. But what I found out later is Marty talks to him regularly on messages him regularly, So I just think it's despicable.
But isn't this like right now an example of like beating up on Alex and Chris? I mean, I heard you use the word a bunch of times. Could it even be called cyberbullying?
Cyberbullying. Well, you've got
cyberbullying. This ain't cyberbullying, Nadia.
Nadia.
Come on, man.
Cyberbullying.
Well, okay.
Cyberbullying is when you're attacking somebody. We're not attacking them. We're telling them we like them. We're just being honest
I'll tell you.
and letting whatever audience you got. What are you going to watch?
I'll give you an example of cyberbullying. Right, when I was a kid, somebody connected in my family when I was a young kid. It was about when I was a little toddler. Shaved my head and urinated on me, and I mentioned this on a video. Alex commentated on it and said he's misunderstood it or it was something else. To me, that's cyberbullying. To me, that's just when I say something's happened to me when I'm not going to mess about about that. That's something that was very painful. For him to make any comments that's derogatory in any way or to use it as propaganda against me or against any Christian is despicable. So that's just one example of many.
And just for the record, Nadia, atheism is at 100% all about cyberbullying the Christians. There's about 5% of the atheists on YouTube that don't use insults and mocking as a tactic. And I can name most of them right here and now, but the bottom line is the ones that are mocking and the ones that are insulting, you can find all about them in Romans 1:1 through 28. God already talked about them as being mockers, debaters, and reprobates. So, in my opinion, there are reprobates here in this community, and there is a very small handful of atheists. You see, an atheist truly believes there is no God. A reprobate behind the reprobate mind knows there's a God and insults those that believe in that God. And they do it because it makes them feel good about being denied by God, because God turned them on to themselves, and they're angry about it. So you can tell the difference between a reprobate and an atheist. Atheists are never angry. Reprobates get very angry, very insultive, very ignorant, and cyberbully Christians. So if you want to discuss reprobates, that's about 95% of the people that deal with Jason, myself, Ron, G-Man, Raw. I mean, all of the Christians that come up here and put Jesus Christ first and foremost on their channel, they're the ones that are getting attacked. The name tag Christians that don't claim Christ in every single video are the ones that the atheists and the mockers, the reprobates, seem to be okay with. But Jesus Christ said that he was hated first. In other words, if you do anything in the name of Jesus Christ, you're going to be hated. If you're not hated here in this community, you're not on the narrow path. You're on the wide path. If you're hanging out with reprobates and atheists, well, they're not on the narrow path, so where are you? If you're hanging out with reprobates and atheists here on YouTube, and the reprobates and the atheists are clearly not on the narrow path, and you're with them, then what path are you on? You are by pure mathematics are standing on the same path as the ones that you're standing with here on YouTube.
So
it's the ones that are being attacked that are on the narrow path, not the ones that are associating with the atheists and the reprobates.
Would you hold this in like fashion against DPR Jones, Andy Jack, and the New Covenant group? Or?
Oh, they're reprobates.
What?
Oh, they're 100% reprobate.
Last I checked, they believe
they mock Christians. No, they mock Christians. They insult Christians. The only Christians that they don't insult are the ones that don't put Christ first and foremost. Jesus Christ said, if you mention my name, I'll mention your name to the Father. Jesus Christ also said that many will come in my name claiming all of these things, and I'll tell them I didn't know them, and to move along.
Last I checked, DPR Jones,
those are
Andy Jack, Fiona, Epicurus, and New Covenant group were Christians. But okay.
Who said that? Who said that?
Well, they
Jesus
themselves
Christ.
said it.
Jesus Christ will be the decider of who a Christian is. And if you listen to what Jesus Christ said, if you mention my name, I'll mention your name to the Father. Jesus Christ said, many will come in his name, and he will kick them to the curb. Jesus Christ said, what you do unto the least of man, you do unto me. So I think Jesus Christ has made it very clear that those that put Jesus Christ first are the true Christians. These people are not on YouTube putting Jesus Christ first. They're putting themselves first, and they're putting the reprobates and the atheists before fellow Christians. And they're putting reprobates and mockers before God, before Christ. So I think Jesus Christ knows full well that they are not the true Christians.
Well, they have plenty to say about Jesus Christ.
Yeah, but they don't defend their brethren in Christ. They don't defend Christians. They mock them, and they hang out with those that mock their brothers. So how could you call them Christians?
I don't believe that's quite what they do. I believe they are
I know that.
critics of... Go ahead.
I know that Fiona mocks Christians. I've seen her do it recently. I know that DPR Jones mocks Christians. He wouldn't know how not to mock a Christian. And Appy, he's so lost he can't even find himself. So I don't know how you think that because people say they're Christians, that makes them Christians.
Well,
They go out proclaiming their faith in Christ. Epi was even debating the Christian side and against Floyd FP.
So what? I can sit here and debate. I can sit here and debate on the side of atheism. Does that make me an atheist?
I think this is an important topic because with it being about it's an interview with Nadia. So Nadia, I kind of more kind of moderate kind of atheist, but I think it is important like Rand's saying. For example, I was on Panda's show and he was talking about being moderate and listening to each other, but there was a guy on there who said the way Andy Jack has been treated by theists has been deplorable. And I thought to myself, I didn't say anything, but I thought to myself, what? Is the guy having a laugh? I mean, the guy hangs around with atheists, the guy attacks Christians, and he's the one that's gone around pestering G-Man. He's the one that was swearing at G-Man, disrespecting him, and I do feel personally that the vast majority of atheists that have developed a culture of abuse on YouTube, and I think they keep getting away with it and keep spinning as if they're not, but it's just abuse. And I agree with you, Ryan.
Okay, well,
Yeah, bro.
I mean, I am not necessarily against Christianity per se, but I can't necessarily speak on behalf of Christians. Would it be okay if DPR Jones joined?
Why does he want to?
Oh, shit, he can join, but he ain't gonna be treated like a brother.
Yeah.
Okay.
You can send him a link if you want to send him a link.
There it is.
Has he got the link?
Yeah. I just Skyped it to him.
Did he want
So the main thing is, if you don't have some kind of, wild doctrine that's going out and harming people, I mean, I don't have a thing to say against it. When you're like Episcopalian, you're lobbying for LGBT rights, ordaining trans bishops and gay priests, and marching for climate action on climate change en masse in the streets of New York. I am 100% behind you and whatever faith you have in Jesus Christ or whatever it is you believe in.
But why don't
the
you?
thing is, when you
But Nadia, why don't you, Christopher Mouty, John McDropout, why don't you speak out against the more radical end of your people? Why is it that you give these people a free pass? Why is it when these people go around that we've talked about, not John McDropout, not Christopher Mouty and yourself, but there are groups of atheists en masse.
I did.
Few channels. Wait a minute, they're going around and they're picking on Christians, they're picking and bullying them, and they're massacring them, and Christians have left YouTube and they're afraid to stay on. You, Christopher Mouty, and others, why is it you won't speak out?
I already have.
Because they agree with it, Jason. They like it. They get lost. They all talk about how funny it is.
I did 2 8-hour-long hangouts. One of them featuring Nate Cunningham and Matthew 419. And
Okay.
I did it specifically against mockery and so on. And welcome, DPR.
Hi, am I heard?
Hi, DP. Nice to hear you, mate. Long time no see, bro.
Yeah, I just wanted to pick up on something that Ran just said.
Okay, bro. Yeah, just for the moment, if you want to say, put in whatever you want, mate.
Yeah, go ahead. I'm here. I'm listening to DPR.
I think it was along the lines of that I mock Christians.
Yes, I've heard you mock Christians.
Tell me about this. Because I think what you mean is
it was a show with Raw. Raw 5069.
Let me finish so you understand what point I'm making so you can address it. And I accept that I mock personal claims and Christian belief. So I accept that. Which Christians do I mock?
You had a show with this Magic Sandwich show. You had Raw 5069 on it, and you asked him why he became a Christian, and he told his testimony, and you found it so hilarious that you got up laughing and left your desk or wherever it was you were sitting and were laughing so hard, and then referred to him as being absolutely nuts.
You'll have to jog my memory about this person.
Raw 5069. He, you know who Raw is. You don't know who Raw is? He was on your Magic Sandwich show.
Yeah, we have lots of people on the Magic Sandwich show.
Okay, well,
what specifically?
well, this was a while back. You asked him, how he became a Christian. He told you the story about how Jesus Christ appeared to him,
yeah,
and Satan appeared to him, and he was given a choice to pick between the two, and he picked Christ, and you got up off your desk and laughed and laughed and laughed, and then came back and referred to him as being absolutely nuts.
I tell you what, you have the wonderful ability to recall events so past in history that I can't remember. I'm not suggesting that this didn't take place, and I'm not suggesting that there may have been an occasion when I actually did insult a particular Christian. But on the whole, I do not go out of my way, and I think I do not, on the whole, ever insult or mock an individual Christian. What I tend to do is actually attack their claims and their beliefs. Now, okay, if you think you've won me by suggesting that there was one occasion that you recall where I did actually mock somebody individually, then okay, you've won me. That's not my purpose to be on YouTube. It's not my purpose to engage with people on the internet. So,
Rand,
no, I want to offer.
Yeah, you're feeding back and echoing. If you could, when someone else's turn to talk, could you mute at that point? And unmute when you're going to come in, that would help.
Yeah, okay. I'm going to give DPR a chance to win back what he believes I won, although I'm not trying to win nothing here. But DPR, let me ask you a question. Have you ever gone after some of these guys that you know do mock Christians and that do insult and use their channels deliberately to insult and mock Christians? Have you ever, as one of the more noted atheists on YouTube, have you ever gone after any of these people or taken a stance against it in a video or on one of your shows?
Whilst accepting that you've totally changed the topic of the question, I'm more than happy to answer your question, and the answer is no.
Okay, so do you realize that your silence is your consent?
No, I do not accept that.
Well, it is. Your silence is your consent. If I see somebody stealing,
no, it's not.
and I don't say something, then I am consenting.
I'm sorry. Pause there. It is an absolutely ridiculous statement for you to make. That I must.
Why do you use the word ridiculous?
No. That your position basically is that I must speak out against every single situation, whether I'm aware of it or not, that may harm some sort of community which is ill-defined and probably non-existent. I'm sorry, this is a ridiculous position for you to take.
Why do you use the word ridiculous? Do you think the word ridiculous is a power word?
No, I'm sorry. Explain to me why it is that I should speak out against positions which have been taken by people who, or videos that have been made about by people about which I have absolutely no knowledge of whatsoever. Or, I mean, let's start with that first.
I would say because you're a leader in the atheist community.
I'm not.
And you could make a difference.
Well, okay. Explain to me the atheist community. What does
I think the actual atheist community is much smaller than we think. I think the reprobate community is the larger part of this.
Easier for you to explain. What is the atheist community?
Well, I would put you in that community. I would put your friend Liv in that community.
Explain what the atheist community is.
It is, in my opinion, by definition, those that choose to insult Christians.
Yeah, that's not a helpful. That's not a helpful description. Explain to me then, if you can't explain the first question, explain to me what atheist community am I party to?
Well, you're party to all of it, bro. Are you an atheist?
Oh, I'm sorry. So your broad is so brush, so broad. Sorry. So let me start that again. Your brush is so broad that anyone on YouTube who is an atheist is part of the atheist community.
Well, I would think anybody that voices themselves in this community as an atheist is an absolute part of this community. Are you suggesting that you're not a part of the debate community? Because you certainly show up in a lot of different. You're here now.
Yeah, but now you've changed the terms again. Now it's a debate community. I'm asking you to define what the atheist community is on YouTube.
No. Don't try to don't try to outsmart. No, I'm not going to let you play games, bro.
No, I'm not
going to let you play games, DPR. You keep using tactics to make yourself look like something you're not. You are 100% an atheist in the great debate community, and you side in the atheist part of that community. That's what you do.
A question.
Okay, both of you guys, just try and listen to each other, yeah, and keep up the conversation, yeah. Go on.
I'm asking a question. What is the atheist community? Define it, and then And then, if you could, explain how I am involved in what you have then previously defined as the atheist community.
Well, I personally, what I would say that from my experience, that the atheist community is a group of people who have an agenda to demonize a certain type of Christianity, which they would understand as fundamentalism, and the vast majority on YouTube that are actively making videos, that is the category. There are some individuals. Sorry, there are some individuals that don't come under that category, like Nadia, John McDropout, and people like that. But the vast majority who are making videos seem to be targeting creationists, and their strategy is a strategy of humiliation. And the Magic Sandwich Show is a leader in that strategy of humiliation.
And let me add to that.
But what I was
DPR, let me add to that if I
do so, because the question is addressed to you.
Okay, let me just add to that. If known Christians on YouTube were asked to list some atheists that they've dealt with over the past couple of years in this great debate community, do you believe that your name would be in that list? If you do, then that list represents the community that I'm talking about.
That's your definition of the community, then. I'm not accepting that definition. I do not accept that there is an atheist community on YouTube. There are many, many atheists on YouTube, some of which I think are absolutely wonderful. I would put, for example, Pothola54, who recently posted an absolutely fantastic video, which I encourage everyone to watch. Aaron Ra, I think, is a great contributor, but there are others who I won't name, who I do not think are necessarily representative of the atheist. I'm going to almost contradict myself. Who I would not consider to be representative of anything that I have to say. So I'm sorry. I think you're going to struggle, and I would ask you again to define what you mean by the atheist community. If your brush is so broad that you include all atheists on YouTube, I'm sorry, you failed in that regard, because you were going to find a lot of disagreement amongst a lot of atheists, and to as I say, to try and put them all in the same category, it's simply not going to succeed.
Well, until you guys clean up your side of the street, I'm going to paint you all with the same brush. Sorry about your luck.
Hey, wait a minute. How did I end up being considered so milquetoast? I mean, I'm an eliminative materialist, and I even go further to Churchland in being eliminative with respect to consciousness. So, I mean, with respect to the actual views I hold, I'm almost as extreme as it gets.
I think the issue is there a culture where there are certain groups of atheists that gang up and pick on an individual apologist? Does that happen? And if it does happen, then if someone ganged up on you, DPR Jones, if someone was trying to destroy you and causing you harm in any way, and there was a gang of them, I'd stick up for you, and I can't understand why. I actually think, to be honest, to be fair, I think behind the scenes you probably actually do. Yeah, you probably actually have said to some individual. I think you're going up beyond below the belt there in private. You probably have said something. I don't think you. I do think you've got some humanity about you, but I think that there is these kind of groups that going around, and they do tend to bully people as a group.
Well, granted, you were asking DPR Jones, but
Yes, I'm
I
happy
already
to
have
answer.
been destroyed. I already have been destroyed.
Who
Give
do
me
you
the
want
list
to
of
answer
hiring
that
managers.
question, Jason?
Uh,
Oh, sorry.
Feel free. You're at home here, DP. If you want to butt in, but it is Nadia's show tonight. It is for her really. So if she wants to come in, you got to give her first response. Nadia, it is your show tonight. It is for you. So if you want to come in and say anything, but DP, you feel at home, and
Oh,
you're at home. You can say whatever you want when you want.
oh, it was pretty brief. I already have been destroyed, and in a far more material and substantive way than mere, comment threads on YouTube videos. If you want, I can give you a list of hiring managers who have, gone about turning me down after they got a look at me in an interview. So go ahead.
Okay, DP, if you want to say.
Jason, as you're well aware, after our debate in December of last year, you made a huge number of videos after that in which you obviously claimed victory and that you'd won me. No surprise there. I made a New Year's resolution to have nothing to do with you, and I have held to that resolution. And that doesn't mean that I have not been made aware of certain statements you've made and some of the videos that you have posted. I think my New Year's resolution was one that was well founded. I think you're a nice way of saying this. I think you're an appalling human being. I just find your inability to interact with people in a normal way absolutely staggering and frightening. And when people do extend any form of friendship or sort of like any form of social intercourse with you, you simply can't deal with it. I really struggle. I do struggle because there are so many things that I would like to say about you, and I'm trying to constrain myself as best I can. But as an example, your recent comments about Christopher Morty, sorry, and also John McDropout. I'm just perplexed at why anyone would want to have any form of engagement with you. I'm sorry to say it. I just think you are thoroughly, to use your own word, nasty human being that it's almost impossible to engage with. And I have to say that I think that those that have tried recently, including Nadia, have shown a degree of patience and tolerance with you, which is beyond all expectation and is worthy of praise. And you just simply do not have the ability to deal with that. For whatever reason, Jason, I don't know. But that's not why I came on. I came on because I'm sure, Jason, you were going to respond to it. But I came on to deal with.
No, DP, you can't say that.
I was cool.
No, let me come in. You can't say that without me coming back in. You're the guy who, when I went on Fundamentally Flawed, called me a fuckwit.
You're digging up history from what, 3 years ago?
Yeah, well, have I ever called you a fuckwit?
Oh, so now it's a challenge of who's been most disrespectful to the other. Come on, Jason.
You on your show.
You've called me all sorts of things in the last.
Let me
never ever.
Let me illustrate how sweet and kind.
This is a ridiculous position to take.
Let's illustrate. I'll illustrate how sweet and kind you are. You have on your show as a guest now, but a guy called Cliff Chipper. That guy came into Manchester and traumatized me, filming me. It's on his show. It's on his channel. Where there was an atheist who he grabbed in the town centre, city centre, and stirred him up, who confronted me and traumatized me. And it's filmed, and you have him on your show, and you're sat here as if you're some kind of like Saint Joan of Arc, who's some kind of sweet kind of guy, and you encourage that kind of behavior because you've not said anything or done anything, or you have that person. Now I've forgiven that person, but the atheist community, the fact that you as an atheist community um, have not said anything about it, not done anything about it, it's self-projection. You saying these things about me is actually the other way around. It's actually you and your side that are the vicious people. Because I've never gone round with a camera to film you. I've never gone round to film Iron Ra, but yet your side have gone round coming after me. I never done anything like that. Yet your side has, and it is your side because that guy has been on your show, and it's absolutely deplorable and despicable. Alex Borton, his behaviour is absolutely despicable the way he treats people. And for you to say that about me when I went on his show and I treated him as a gentleman recently when he wanted to debate me and I went on there and it wasn't a debate, it was an emotional, abusive massacre where he just ripped into me, abusing me, and I treated him as a gentleman. Now, the issue that I have had with you as a Magic Sandwich Show is that you, as a Magic Sandwich Show, have a despicable and deplorable attitude to people who were Christian fundamentalists, and your kind of attitude filters into the rest of YouTube, where people like Live Like 8072, whatever it is, and many others take their cue from that kind of attitude, and it's an attitude of humiliation. And the response that you had from me and you get from Ran Campbell and others is because of the anger of the hypocrisy and the bullying that your group do, and they do it. And so, like, for you to say these things about me, I mean, what you've said about me is no, a human being wouldn't say what you said to me. Not a human being would not say what you've said to me. That is not human. That is not normal. At least I gave you the benefit of the doubt, and I even said that you are humane. But what you're saying about me, it isn't even on the Richter scale of humane. It's inhumane, and that's the issue. The issue is that if you treated people in a respectful way, then you wouldn't have people getting upset with you. And that's what I think, and I just think that at the end of the day, I I like many of these atheists, but deep down you hunt in packs and you pick on people and you bully people, and that's what you do. You just bully people, and it's very difficult to operate in a fair way and have a debate with people and a discussion when people like you have that kind of attitude.
I don't think it's fair to compare any kind of I don't know disclaiming of fundamentalist doctrine as anything like the stigma against, say, LGBT people. I mean, this is a matter of, say, YouTube popularity, which is
It's not
not
true.
terribly meaningful.
Well,
Where
no, Nadia, let's have it right. Let's have it
I mean, I'm
right.
being discriminated. I'm being discriminated
No, let's have it right.
out of jobs, onto the street, getting health care denied, and probably dropping dead.
Yeah, but wait a minute. Yeah, but wait a minute. Wait a minute. I understand what you've been going through, but I can speak from my own experience. There was a time where nearly every day, that you had, what's his name? You had Lenator, you had Joker, you had countless atheists with Google Hangouts where every day they were talking about me.
So what? Turn the computer off. Go for a walk.
No, they were taking the mic. They were taking the mic, and it was beyond a joke.
What
It was.
paycheck do you have that depends on
Listen, no,
your YouTube popularity?
no, I'm not having it. It's important. They had every couple of days they were making Google Hangouts, and it had gone It gone way beyond that. It was abuse. It was total abuse. And for an atheist to come into the city centre to do that was absolutely despicable. For Alex Borton, the way he's conducted himself, it's despicable. The false accusations that Fiona made was despicable. It was that false accusation that traumatized me. It's absolutely despicable. So you can't go. So for DPR Jones to say that about me, I'm a nice guy, and I'm a decent guy, and I'm a lot more decent than these kind of people, you know. And so I totally reject what you're saying.
And you say that when you're, false aspersions against Fiona got her son's
She's a
face beaten
liar.
in.
She's a total liar. She's a liar, and she traumatized me with that lie. She traumatized me, and you as an atheist community. No, wait a minute.
And as if her son wasn't traumatized by the beating.
No, wait a minute. You as an atheist community, all accepted it, all was okay about it, and it was actually exposed underneath where she stopped someone actually commentating to expose her an atheist, and nobody said anything about it, and it was, and I was totally traumatized by that. I was traumatized by Jim Gardner, what he did, where he got.
Fiona is a
Oh,
Catholic.
wait a minute. Wait a
Catholic
minute.
Christian.
Wait a minute. No, Nadia. Wait a minute. An atheist who got my own doctor, forced my own doctor to see me, traumatized me. An atheist coming into Manchester traumatized. It's all documented because Jim Gardner accepts it. Cliff Jumper, you can go and watch the video on his channel, and you can go and see countless videos where Fiona Robertson is actually there with atheists putting these accusations about me with loads of atheists. So as far as I'm concerned, the vast majority of the atheists are an abusive community. People like DPR Jones encourage it.
Okay, Jason, that's a accusation justified. How do I do that?
Well, first of all, you've got Cliff Jumper on your channel.
So
So you should have said something that what you did, getting that atheist to nearly hit Jason. That the guy, that Cliff Jumper, actually a week later actually came to me and he swung for me. You should say you need to put it right with him and make a public apology and not have him on your show. That's what you should do if you had any dignity at all.
So you're saying that by having him on the show, I am supporting everything that he may or may not have said.
If you had him once,
may or may not have done.
If you had him once,
About which
if you had him once, then you can't be accountable for that, maybe. But if you've had him again, second time, then it's obviously you are, you should say something.
What shall I say, Jason?
You should say that your behaviour is unacceptable, that you shouldn't be doing things like that, and that actually, if you're going to be on our show, we have impeccable standards, and you need to make sure that from your end it's been put right. Because from Jason's end, he's forgiven you, but from your end, you need to publicly state that you going into Manchester and filming him and stirring up another atheist who nearly punched him, and then you going in a week later and nearly punching him yourself, and there are witnesses, there were 3 other street preachers there, DP, that kind of behaviour is unacceptable, and that Jason is a free person in a free democratic society to be able to preach without having that intimidation, and also to make videos on YouTube without being intimidated. And I support freedom of speech, and Jason has freedom of speech. So I don't want him to be intimidated. You speak and put it right. That's what you should have done.
Why do you think I have any authority to do? This goes back to the initial question about how would I be able to control the community? How would I be able to control other people?
You don't have to control other people. You have to have a bit. You have to face the fact that you're being two-faced now, pretending to be something that you're not. You have to face the fact that you have encouraged.
I'm not. At the moment, I'm being two-faced.
No, you are two-faced because you've allowed somebody on your channel without making a public statement or getting them to make a public statement that for them to, and if anybody wants to go and see the video, go on Cliff Jumper's channel and see the video there, and you will find loads of atheists actually being angry against him for what he did. So the atheist community did make comments, but no atheist who ran YouTube channels made a public statement about it, and they should have done, because it was despicable what he did. It was absolutely disgusting. And you and your atheist community are a total discredited that you never ever said anything about it. Humanity, John McDropout, all of them should have spoken out and said something. The fact that you didn't is a disgrace on you as an atheist community.
Again, we go back to the question.
But Jason, he's not
community.
going to, bro. DPR Jones condones it, Jason. They love making fun of Christians, and if they're not doing it themselves, they love to watch and enjoy the lulls. DPR Jones is a noted atheist on YouTube. He's a well-respected atheist. Atheists adore him and listen to him and hold him on a pedestal. DPR Jones could very easily do a video saying that it's disgusting what they do to Christians here on YouTube, but he won't do it because it goes against his own fiber. He enjoys making fun of Christians, and he enjoys watching it. They all do. This is what they do, Jason.
I know. And I've got no respect for the Magic Sandwich Show because of that. That's why. I've never had any respect for the Magic Sandwich Show because of the fact that at the end of the day you don't have any respect for anybody who believes the Bible, anybody who believes Jesus, or anybody who believes that Jesus rose again, and because you've got no respect, then that's the way it is, isn't it? So DP, enjoy your Magic Sandwich Show. GP, if you want to go back to your Magic Sandwich Show now, you go back, mate. You can go if you want to.
And I don't care, Jason, what DPR Jones says or anybody else says on this particular topic. The bottom line is they attack Christians. They don't just attack the belief of the faith. They attack the actual human being. And they don't care. To them, it's absolutely hilarious. And they would never do it face-to-face with most of the ones that they do it with, because most of the ones doing it are spineless. And they're hiding up the skirt of YouTube, thinking they're impressing people. And the bottom line is that DPR Jones won't say anything about it because he consents to it. If he didn't consent to it, he would say something.
That's it. This is the point that I wanted to.
DP, why don't?
This is the reason I joined the conversation is because of Rand's accusations that I mock Christians. And I asked him for evidence of that. And I returned to that question.
Your very channel is a mocking of Christians, bro.
DP, you can.
You only bring Christians on there to insult them, make fun of them, and to tear up their faith and belief in God. You don't bring them on there because you're actually interested or because you have an idea that maybe you're wrong. You do it because you're trying to deconvert, make fun of, or get an audience to enjoy Christians being treated disrespectfully on your channel. That's why you do it. They're not doing it because you respect Christianity.
Allow me to ask an enlightening question. DPR, I got a question for you.
Nadia,
what do you think about? Yeah, well, I think this is pretty important.
Well, Nadia, Nadia, I don't want to linger. I just want to come in a minute. I agree with what Rand's just said, but you can come on here and speak all nice, like trying to keep calm like you're doing, DP. But we've seen you where you've flowed off the angle and you've sworn at Christian apologists. You did it to me, right? The issue is, if people want to know whether what we're saying is true, all they've got to do is go to your channel and go back and watch show after show after show, and there's tons of evidence to prove what we're saying at the end of the day. At the end of the day, DP, if you don't want to build a bridge and if you don't want to engage, then, there's a road down here on YouTube, and if you want to move on, you want to go now and go back to your channel, that's okay. It's no skin off my nose or Rand's nose or anybody else's. So if you want to go now, you can go.
I
And
have
you
an
know what the
important question
truth is?
first.
One sec.
I have
Let
an
me just
important
say, no,
question first.
one sec, Nadia. Okay, Nadia, one sec. I just want to say I actually like DPR Jones as a person. I actually really do. I have no ill hate or feelings towards him at all. I really do like DPR Jones, but I believe that he has a powerful voice in this uh, issue, and if he really didn't consent to the way that they treat Christians here in this so-called debate community, he could get up and say something and make some changes, but he won't do it because he enjoys it, and he doesn't want not one of them to think that he would ever side with a Christian. He doesn't want that because that would take away from his notoriety,
I mean,
and he ain't having it.
I like.
All right, DPR. Let me ask an important question here. What is your take on Episcopalians who believe in deistic evolution, who support LGBT rights, ordain LGBT ministry, and so on, and who march in the streets of New York, hundreds of thousands, to combat climate change? What do you think of Episcopalians?
I don't fully understand what the definition is or what they stand for, but given the particular ones that you've identified, I have absolutely no reason not to support such a thing. I thought it was interesting in your discussion with Jason earlier on that you actually asked him specifically about the Bible, and I wish I could remember it more specifically, but I think your position was, or Jason's position was, that the issues about lesbian and gay rights weren't really mentioned specifically in the Bible, and I think his term was they were somewhat periphery or something like that, and you pressed him on that, and you asked him, well, why do you, if they're not central to biblical teachings, why does he hold on to that view so sincerely? And people can go back and watch his response. It was, if I may offer an opinion, pretty desperate and not persuasive at all.
Okay.
But if you ask me what my position is...
Wait a minute. I just want to come back in there, DP.
What a shame. I was just going to tell you what my opinion was.
I'll just come in. If people go back, a little bit of spinning by DPR Jones there. As far as I was concerned, I did not say that it was periphery. I didn't say that. I didn't use that word periphery. That was Nadia that used that. I didn't use that. So that's an important thing. Go on, DP.
Okay, so my position, I think, is very much in accordance with Nadia's, and it is that I take the view, when it comes to morality, I reject anything that the Bible has to say because it is so disgusting in its context. My view is that we look at morality as in how best to treat other people, ourselves as well, and what we should and should not do to other people, what beliefs that we hold, and taking the issue of lesbian, gay rights, transsexual rights, and I know there's a acronym for it. It's not really important. The important thing is how we treat other people, and to treat other people in a derogatory or negative way by virtue of a book, I think is disgraceful. We surely must accept that we are better people than that. And any belief system that has as its core the idea that certain people or certain sexes are lesser people and should not be accorded equal rights is something that cannot possibly be justified. We have developed, I hope, well, obviously not all of us have developed, but as a people, I hope that we will develop to the stage where we do not make discriminations against people by virtue simply of their sexuality or their sexual identity. And as I say, I think it is absolutely disgraceful that there are still people in this world at this time who are suggesting that we ought to make such distinctions and such discrimination by virtue only of a book that is obviously untrue in so many regards. Let me finish, Jason. Let me finish, Jason. A book that is so obviously false in so many regards, that is so clearly written at an age where things and social were totally different. For them to justify their bigotry, their hatred, their discrimination, and their claim to right upon this, I'm sorry, I have absolutely no respect. Let me finish, Jason. One last thing, one last sentence, and I will finish. I have absolutely no problem whatsoever with whatever any particular individual may feel or believe. As Thomas Jefferson, as Christopher Hitchens frequently reminded us, my neighbor's belief in a god or gods is irrelevant to me. It neither picks my pocket nor breaks my leg.
Okay.
And for that reason, I have no problem whatsoever with what your individual belief is. But if you try and impose your individual belief on other people, then I have a problem.
Okay. Can I ask? Well, one observation: you didn't make an argument. It was just emotional feeling that you were speaking about. First question: are you gay?
I'm sorry, I muted myself.
Are you gay?
I will answer this question yes and no. What possible difference would it make to the observations that I've made?
But are you gay?
Okay, for your sakes, Jason, I'll say yes, I'm gay.
Okay. Well, the Bible's against being gay, so you've got a prejudice against it.
Okay, so I'll answer the question another way. I'm not gay.
Yeah, but you just said you are. So
I've now just changed my position. I'm not gay.
Basically, you're prejudiced against the Bible. The Bible says it's sin, and you're bound to
Jason, you really. I was playing your game. Okay, so the basis of my game was it doesn't matter what I answer. So yes, I'm gay. No, I'm not gay. So where are you going to proceed from this?
No, the point is that what you were saying was an emotional response, and it's an emotional response from somebody who's gay, and that's all it was. It was not an argument. You didn't make an argument, DP. It was just an emotional feeling that you were talking about, and it stems from the fact that you're gay. So I mean, if you wanted to make an argument, make a coherent argument, and we could deal with a coherent argument. But so far, you've not made a coherent argument.
Okay.
I would say he made a coherent argument, but okay.
Well, he didn't, but go on then. Anyhow, what's the next on the agenda?
That's all.
What's that, Ram?
See, for them, it's all about opinion, bro. It's opinion.
Yeah.
Mother Teresa and Hitler, to them, it's an opinion.
Yes, it is.
Atheists have opinions, bro. They don't have facts. They don't have anything substantial. What they do is they collectively put out an opinion and demand, listen to the word, demand that you follow suit and get in line. If you don't, then they have a word called bigot or intolerant to put on you, or homophobic. And they put these titles and names on you, thinking that what it's going to do is force you to get in line like they told you to.
Thanks.
I guess otherwise.
Guys, I'm going to close the hangout in a minute. I just want to thank Nadia for coming and allowing me to interview you. I want to thank Rand for coming on, and I want to thank you, DPR Jones, for coming on. It is nice. Whatever you've said about me, whatever I've said, I do appreciate that you've come on anyway. So, and Rand, I'm glad you've come on and said what you've had to say. And I'm going to leave it for each person to close for the final 1 minute, if that's okay. And I wish you all the best, DP, and I wish you all the best for the future, Nadia. And I'm sure I'll be talking to Nadia and Ran in the future. But if you don't want to engage, DP, I just wish you all the best. Do you want to start, Nadia? 1 minute each?
Yes. I believe I've at least started on irrational justification of my own beliefs, and at least a statement of not necessarily opposition to others' freedom of thought to the extent they don't go about, well, as DBR quoted, picking my pocket or breaking my leg. That said, my leg is getting broken, and my pocket is getting picked. So my appeal to Christians online is to counteract the stigma that has been spread against me and those like me, and to find a way to embrace the people who peripheral doctrine, not denying your core beliefs and so on, is so vociferously denigrated.
No.
Go ahead. I'm done.
Well, why are you?
Take this cord and unwrap it so it wasn't tangled. That's what I was doing, but the cord is actually right here.
Oh, Rancam, you're getting picked up. I think you're having a side conversation. Yeah, go ahead. I wrapped up. Go ahead.
Okay. Ran?
Well, he's obviously tied up.
All right. DP, do you want to have a last word, mate?
Yeah, I feel somewhat ashamed and embarrassed that that my coming out as being gay happened to happen on your show, Jason, and I think in some way looked at in a perverse way. It was probably the right program and hang out to do so and to make such an admission, because how best to put this, I find my physical attraction to you, Jason, to be stronger than I've had with any other person. I hope I don't embarrass you by saying that, but I'm seriously, strongly sexually attracted to you, and I hope that we could perhaps find some sort of way to make that, rather than the sort of like internet connection, perhaps a more physical connection.
Well, DP, I don't know if you're winding me up or not, but at the end of the day, I'm not that way inclined, but I respect if that's the way you feel. I respect however you feel. I'm not gonna put you down or anything like that. So, yeah, so that's all I gotta say. I just believe it or not, over the years we've had these battles, but I do care about you and I do love you, believe it or not.
I appreciate those words, and they've been a lot. The fact that you love me touches me greatly.
I don't know if you're winding me up, but if you are winding me up, I genuinely do love you and I do care about you. And I'm not gay. I'm not going to be gay, but I'm always here if you want a friend, mate.
That's all I need to hear from you, Jason.
And wish you all the best, mate. Ron?
All right, I'm just going to say this, and I think DPR kind of knows me, DPR and I have had some really good discussions, and I like DPR Jones. Like, honest to God, and this is regardless of atheism and Christianity. Just as a person, he really truly is the kind of a person that I am drawn to in this world. He's a nice guy. He means well, but what he does that aggravates me is he cherry picks the things that he promotes. And I understand why he does it as an atheist. But as a human being, I just wish that he would use his powerful voice in this community, which he doesn't like to.
Hello?
Hello?
Hello, Ron?
Ran? Ran, your mic cut out. Oh, he probably actually dropped and has to reconnect.
Well, I'll
Like to see because, and I. But at any rate, I'm just going to leave it at that. And Nadia already knows I love Nadia. I am not. 1 second. I'm not that hates people for whatever their situation is in life. I'm not like that. You know what I mean? I hate people. I hate people for the right reasons. And I don't love everybody. I'm not one of those Christians that's going to turn the other cheek and tell you I love everybody. There are certain individuals in this world I do not love, I do not like, and I don't care. I will stand accountable to God when I stand accountable to God. I don't care. I'm not going to just love and like everybody for the sake of loving and liking everybody. I don't care that people hate me, and I don't care that I say things that draw hate upon myself. The bottom line is that you can't like everybody, and I can promise you this, in this community, it is impossible to like everybody.
Ran, we'll have to hit the gym together.
Okay. Yeah. Thanks, Nadia, for coming, and been nice to be with you, mate. And appreciate that. And thanks for coming, DP. Appreciate that. I don't know what you were saying at the end. I think you were winding me up, but I just wish you all the best, mate. And we're on the opposite side of the fence, and you think I'm boring. Well, I'm sorry about that, but I'm just going to continue to be me and just do my thing. And I just wish you all the best. And thanks for coming.
I was telling Ran that we'll have to hit the gym together.
All right.
Yeah, you find some guy named Jim, I'll hold him down, you hit him.
Besides Jim Barber, I was thinking of a gymnasium with lots of weights to lift and workouts.
Yeah, when you come to Canada and I get you that Canada hat you want.
All right.
Absolutely. Canada Day it is.
Thanks
lots of cheering and drinking and dancing in the street.
Ran, thanks for coming, mate, and appreciate you coming on, mate. All right, I'm gonna close the channel now, guys, and wish you all the best. Yeah.
Absolutely.
All right. Take care now.
Have a good night.
Bye now.